Grand Rising, everybody. Good rising, good morning, good afternoon. Hello, everybody. It's good to see you. Welcome. This is a Friday. Happy Friday. Yay! It is Friday, January the 17th, 2025, and the time is 12 o'clock noon p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Welcome, family. Check on in. Join us and let us know where you're hailing from. So happy Friday and happy 17. Check in, let us know, family, how you're doing today. I hope everyone is having a phenomenal day. I see so many people here today. We're going to give you time to check in. Good morning. People are saying Trump 2025. Yes, because he did give a speech from Mar-a-Lago stating that prosperity begins on day one, which is January the 20th, just in 3 days. Now, January the 20th happens to be Inauguration Day, according to the United States Incorporated. But the original Inauguration Day for our Republic is actually March the 4th. So we'll see what happens on March the 4th, 2025, and we'll see what happens on January the 20th, because not only is it Inauguration Day, but it is also Martin Luther King's birthday celebration. So, one king dies and another one rises up. I don't know the significance between President Donald Trump being inaugurated on January 20th and it actually being Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday commemoration celebration day. But let's see what happens, family. I'm so happy to be alive on this day. And then on the next day, January the 21st, is when we're supposed to see a planetary alignment of many, many planets that will actually be visible for the world to see. So I'm sure there's some significance in that. So Grand Rising. Hi, Taj. This is my great friend, one of my best friends that I've known for over 15 years. Taj had to have a procedure on this morning, I think, or yesterday. So pray for him. Keep him elevated and uplifted. We know that the Creator is with him. This is a very, very interesting time that we're living in. It's the age of Aquarius, and we're all trying to get our health to be optimal. We're trying to get our spirits and vibrations to highs so that we can rise with the dimension. So pray for Brother Taj. It's good to see you, my love. Also, please pray for Patriot Rod Steele. Patriot Rod Steele is our resident financial advisor. You guys have talked to him and seen him on my podcast many, many times. I had a call from his family, from his former wife, his companion, who has been by his side for many years. Throughout this time, he's been battling cancer. So please, please pray for him. He actually had a car accident the other night, and it was severe, a bad car accident, family. And he has to have surgery today. It was supposed to happen this morning. So she is asking for the prayers of the saints and of everybody. And please be patient with him as he has a long road ahead of him in terms of recovery. So all of you who have scheduled meetings with him, he sends his love and he asks you, please be patient with him. He's trying to get the message out to as many people as possible. His wife has been diligently calling me. She called Mark Z. They called many other podcasters because they really value our soul family. Many of us have kept them uplifted in prayer. We've, called on them, checked on them. We've blessed them financially, and they are very, very grateful because of our soul family. Patriot Rod still has been able to cure himself. Right now, there's no cancer showing in his body, or, I don't know if cure is the right word, but alleviate the cancer visibility in his body because he was able to afford the treatment. So I'm so grateful for you, family. You all are amazing. You don't know how much work we can do if we put our love together and our resources together to support humanity. So again, Patriot Rod Steele sends his apologies for not being able to keep up with all of the consultations. He was trying his best. His body was still very weak through all the cancer treatments. And, he has problems with his voice as well. And he's recovering from many, many things. He's trying to also boost his testosterone in his body because those treatments take away from the testosterone in your body. You know how they do, family. They'll treat one thing and for some reason it will affect something else. So pray for Patriot Rod Steele. Also in this community, I'm getting texts and messages right now, is Cliff High. Cliff High is a gentleman who does predictions based on his web bot analysis. And he's like a mathematician, a scientist, or something. Like this man, I don't know, some type of wonderful magician, if you ask me. But Cliff High announced yesterday that his wife passed. So pray for Cliff High. You can follow him on X. I'll put up his Twitter in the description section. I'll pull it up for you in a minute. Pray for him because his wife just passed. He didn't say what was going on with his wife, but she was his wife of over 4 decades. And he has been very, very, very important in this community family. So, I pray that you all would pray for him in terms of just letting us know what's about to happen geopolitically, what's about to happen financially. This man has been spot on. So I'll see if I can I'll find his information for you right here so you can follow him, stay updated with him and all of the content that he provides for the Soul family. He's let people know about how silver is going to do, how currencies are going to do, how digital assets are going to do, what's going to happen with many conflicts that are going on in the world. He talks about presidential elections and all that type of thing. So this is him, Cliff High, and I think his tag is Cliff is anti-selenite or something like that. So that's I'll put that in the description section for you as well, and in the chat. His wife, what did he just say? His wife of 52 years has passed away. I said over 4 decades. It's actually over 5 decades. Pray for him, family, please. You guys know I've also had some deaths in my family or transitions in my family. So keep my family in prayers as well. And I am coming up on the 3rd year. I can't believe it's been 3 years anniversary of my husband, the husband of my youth, my former husband, passing from complications of, heart disease, what else? All type of things. And may perhaps even COVID. They said he had COVID with no symptoms. So that's what I want to announce before we get into the podcast. Check in again. Let us know where you're hailing from. I see Louisiana in the house. Thank you, family. Please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and let everybody know where you're hailing from. Let's see. Sister, who is this? Eternally Lit says, love and like Dr. Pruitt. I logged onto QFS and it shows that I have millions, but I didn't do the KYC verification. I don't know anything about logging into the QFS system yet. I know people are talking about logging into it and downloading a wallet. Hello, Winter Haven. It's good to see you, Harmonious Light. So I don't know how to advise you on that. I just know that everybody will have a Quantum Financial account at some point, but there's nothing you need to do. You don't need to pay for a wallet, download a wallet. Hi, Mississippi, or anything like that. Mickey Jenkins is in the house. Hi, Connie, watching from Toronto. Cheryl's in the house. So I don't know how to advise you on that. Larry is here from Alabama. But if I get more information on the Quantum Financial System, I will come back and report. Got to be me says, so sorry to hear about all of these losses. Oh, hi, New Priest in the house. He says, in case no one is aware, another fire and power plant in Monterey, California just happened. Please pray for our family members that are in California, as well as everybody that's dealing with the this winter blast that's been occurring all over the place, family. So much is going on, with the weather, and it makes one to believe or try to figure out, whether or not all of this is orchestrated. So we have 327 people in the chat. We're going to get started when we reach 400. I see Lori's in the house. He says, good morning. I've been praying for your family. I appreciate that. Aloha to Jaja. It's good to see you. Rich Rising to Dashai, good to see you as well. Lori is in the house. Lori says, I meant Grand Rising. It's good to see you, Lori. Tiger says Trump 2025. And yes, this is the golden age. High Living Life is good to see you. This is the golden age and the age of Aquarius, family. So we're so happy to be alive on this day. Let me see what else is going on. Keep checking in, family. I'm going to slow down just a little bit as I thank all of you who has been blessing me. I don't want that on. Okay. Blessing me as I've been away for a couple of days. Oh, thank you so much for the Cash App blessing. You guys are amazing. Speaking of Cash App, let me go ahead and acknowledge all the people who have been blessing me. You guys are so amazing. I am very, very grateful. Is it too light in here? Let me know how the lighting is in here, family, please. I'm very, very grateful for all of you who take the time to send me a blessing. While I've been away for 2 days, I haven't been live. I've just been doing some reflection and just, maybe doing some thinking and praying and fasting because we are entering into the age of Aquarius, or we have arrived, and this is a time of prosperity and peace and ascension. So I just wanted to focus on what's been going on in my life and how to improve, how to become a better version of myself. Because honestly, I never want to come back. I want to live forever, if possible, as long as possible, especially with the med beds coming online. But, if I ever transition out of here, I don't want to come back. And I don't mean to be morbid or anything. I just don't want to come back. I'm doing everything to the best of my ability right now. I'm trying my best to be perfect and live up to a standard of perfection. The scripture says, be ye perfect, even as your Father is perfect, or even as I am perfect, be ye holy as I am holy. And when you think about the principles of Ma'at, you're supposed to weigh your heart daily so that when you do transition and Ma'at weighs your heart on the scales, your heart will be as light as a feather. That's the way you're supposed to be living each day. So in the morning, and whenever I can think about it, when I arise, I say to myself, I will not commit sin today. I will not transgress against my neighbors. I will not lie today. I will not do anything with my neighbor's husband. I will not do this and that. I will not live an unclean life. I will live a circumspect life. And then when I go to sleep at night, I say, I have not transgressed my neighbor. I have not touched my neighbor's husband. I have not stolen today. I have not told a lie today. And if I found myself in error anyway, then I correct it right away. I truly know that when you live from a place of knowing that you have to go to bed at night and give an account to yourself, not just to an external God, but you have to give an account to yourself for how you have lived through that day, then I know that having to give an account for myself that night, that throughout the day, I'm going to live as circumspectly, as holy, as clean, and as good as possible. Now, some people will say nobody's perfect. We're all human. But when you exegete and eisegete the scriptures, that word perfect means whole or complete, right? So being a whole or complete person means that as much as lies within you, you're living a righteous, circumspect life. Your mind, body, soul, and spirit are at one with each other, and you love your neighbor as yourself. The scripture also says that the word says, love God, the God of your understanding, with all your heart, your mind, and your soul. And the second scripture says, love your neighbor as yourself. Now, when you love God with all your heart, your mind, and your soul, and you know you come from source, then that means you love yourself with all your mind, your heart, your soul. And you're supposed to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And the scripture goes on further to say, on these two scriptures hang all the laws and all the precepts of the biblical text. So you can be holy and perfect. Be ye perfect, again, as I am perfect, as source is perfect, means to be whole and complete. And that's the way I live my life. So if I live my life, or since I live my life that way now, I don't even have to come back. I'm going to do everything right now. And anytime I see myself make an error in judgment or make a mistake, then guess what? I get it correct quickly. And I also surround myself with people who will hold me accountable, like Taj, one of my best friends that you guys just saw say, hey, Pruitt. Like my children, like a spiritual counselor and advisor. All of you even hold me accountable for how I live and for what I do in my life. So that's about it, family. But I did want to say, I appreciate you all so much. And I want to say thank you for all of you who sent me a blessing while I was away. And I'm still doing my 7-day fruit fast. I'll talk about that in a minute. But first, for all of those who sent me a Cash App blessing, I want to say thank you. Carol Rashford, thank you. God bless you. Having smile on you. Estrelita, thank you. My son Douglas Lattimore, thank you. Sister Vanessa Rodriguez, thank you. Terrence Watkins, I appreciate you for the Cash App blessing. Selena, thank you so much. God bless you. Having smile on you. For many of you just checking in, I'm thanking all the people who are sending me blessings. As I've been away from YouTube, not doing it live for the last 2 years, just doing some introspection. And people are saying they appreciate my work. So thank you. Lydell Coffer, thank you so much for the Cash App blessing. Freedom, God bless you. Cameron, thank you. Sister Delilah N. Smith, thank you. Also, Ella Christina, thank you. And beautiful Max Ministry, that's our Chief Mac, thank you so much. So those of you who have done trust with Chief Mac, he says, thank you so much. He will come back on to talk about how we can operate in our sovereignty. And Chief Mac always sends me a Cash App blessing. He calls and checks up on me. And he's one of my spiritual advisors. He is my spiritual covering. So I give an account to him for how I live my life and making sure that I live a righteous and justice life. So I'm very grateful for him. And he sends me blessings to make sure that I am okay and sustained financially, as many of my YouTube channels have been taken down. So I'm very, very grateful. If you want to get in touch with Chief Mac for a consultation, you can email him at unityinmotion45@yahoo.com. That's UNITYINMOTION45@yahoo.com. Thank you, Sister Lori Goley, for the Cash App blessing. Tristan, I'm always grateful for you. You take care of your girl. I love you so much. And you always say, I love you. Thank you. Sister Marie Miller, thank you for the Cash App blessing. Cameron Frederick, thank you. I appreciate you. Theo Wolford, I often receive blessings from you. Thank you so very much. God bless you. Sister Doris Morton, Tajwanda, thank you. Colleen, I appreciate you as well. Colleen Noventy. And Michael Bernard, as well as Glenn Snell. Theo, I see you again. Theo Wolford, Sister Deborah Allen. I will maintain. I'm grateful for you. Peter Kirksey, thank you. You see all the love that I've been receiving. That's why I always say, without you, I don't matter. Without you, I am not relevant. Something my pastor told me a long time ago. If you are called to do something and you say you have a purpose, the Creator will let you know that. He will or she will confirm that, because the people in your environment, the people around you, will be able to feel and affirm your calling and your gift. You should be able to resonate with the people to whom you're speaking. So I'm very, very grateful that you all affirm me. Thank you so much. Taiwana, thank you. God bless you for often sending me Cash App blessings. Sister Deborah Allen, Barbara Jones, Theo Walford 3 more times, Veronica Steptoe, Lori again, Lori Goldney, Cameron Frederick, Beverly Williams, and Chief Mac, as well as Michelle Spradley, Maxine Alibi, and Michael George. So you guys are amazing. Thank you for all the love, family, and for all the Cash App gifts. But more importantly, thank you for your energy, your time, and your being here. So for those of you who have sent me a blessing, God bless you. Heaven smile on you. May the Creator bless you 1,000-fold more than what you blessed me with. We have 461 people in the chat, almost 500. Keep checking in so we can get started with today. For those of you asking, my Cash App is $ Mama Kia 13. I am a mama. I am and was ordained and sanctioned as a queen mother in many of the villages in the Ashanti region in Africa. So in the Ashanti region in Africa, in Ghana, some of the chiefs made me a queen mother years ago, probably because one of the chiefs wanted to make me his second wife. But of course, I didn't become a second wife. Thank you for the Cash App blessing again, Cameron Frederick, because, obviously I wasn't available to be anybody's wife. And I have nothing against polygyny. It just wasn't of my interest. I was actually taking care of my sick husband of my youth at the time. I was just taking a vacation. And of course, I, graciously said, no, I'm not able to do this. And I did speak to his wife. She was kind of worried. She was like, oh my God, what am I going to do if he takes on a second wife? Because even though polygyny is allowed there in Africa, in Ghana, Some of the women don't want to participate, but they do know that if you are married to a chief, that probably will happen. And while some of them don't want that to happen, it happens, and then therefore he is able to take care of more than one wife. Because in some of these cases, excuse me, in some of these cases, if a man doesn't take on more than one wife, then the women are often left to die, or they have to figure out a way to make it. They have to figure out a way to survive. And you guys know that historically, women aren't hired at the same rate as men in many parts of the world. So it actually makes sense for men in many cultures to take on more than one wife. So I support it. And I say, if that's what you agree is best for the culture, then that at least you don't have leftover women that are just left to die. You don't have children that are uncovered and unprotected. So, hey, I respect everybody's culture as long as it's not hurting people. So I was made a queen mother in the Ashanti region, and that just basically meant that I was able to be respected as one of the mothers, be lauded as a teacher and an elder. And that meant that I was assigned people that would help me with some of my duties. And also in response to that, of course, I put money into the economy and helped many of the children go to school. I financed many of the children going to school. I made sure that, we have food in the surrounding villages. And I stayed with a grand queen mother, so to speak, and to help her with her village. But, the money that we have, we might think it means a lot. But family, the queen mother with whom I was staying actually had 2 compounds in the Ashanti region. And these compounds had like many apartments, like small apartments that were lined up together. And it had a gate that opened up. So it's like, if you can think of a village with a bunch of little apartments kind of in a circle, and they have one door here that will allow you in and out of that compound. It's awesome. It's amazing. Then down the way, she had another one like that. And within that compound, we did all the cooking outside. We took care of all the children. The women would meet and talk about the news for the day and the rules that we set for the day. So even within a patriarchal society, the women really ran a lot of things. Like, we decided who ate, what they ate, what would be sold at the market, which clothes would be washed, how we would wash them. We would be the ones to go and get the water from the wells, bring them to the compound. We would do all the washing for everybody. All the women got together, did all the washing. We reared all the children. We sent them to school, taught them English when they came back to school. We advised the chiefs. The chiefs met very often, but we as the women and the queen mothers advised the chiefs, because we knew what was best for the animals, the land, and the children. So I really love the way we had the matriarchy set up within the patriarchy in Africa, in Ghana, in the Ashanti region. So we might get back to doing something similar to that as we ascend to higher dimensions. So that was my experience being a queen mother. I did live in Ghana between 2014 and 2017 on and off many times. And I was able to experience gold mining, and I lived on the gold mines. I saw the gold mines. I spoke with the chiefs. I had relationships, not relations, but relationships with the chiefs. The one with whom I was staying with his mom, actually, in our compound. So he was my brother, and not my biological brother, but we actually lived and conducted business like he was my brother. So as we ascend to this new dimension, you're going to find that we will be working with many people from many different countries to help improve their societies and their environments. So Mama owned the compound in which I stayed. She owned a compound down the way. She ran what would happen in those 2 compounds, and basically in the whole village, in the next village as well, because the queen mothers set the precedent for how the food would be dispersed, cooked, and on how the children would be taken care of. But also, Mama owned land 10 miles away. And I went with her several times to go see this land. And just a little precursor before we get into today's news. And I asked her one time, I said, Mama, please, can I, she was like, please call me sister. But I called her Mama. She's like in her 80s. And let me tell you, youthful as I was, in my 40s at the time. I'm not in my 40s now, but at the time. And I said, Mama, let me walk up the mountains with you to go see your land. She said, baby, no, no, no. She says, you are a Bruni. That means a white girl, because that's what they call America. You're a Bruni. You're a Bruni. You can't make it. You won't be able to do what I can do. And she told the truth. This woman walked 10 miles, 10 miles, some of which was up, dirt roads and mountains to get to her land. So they said, we're going to hail a taxi for you, a trotro. So I got a taxi or a trotro, and I actually had them to drive me up to her land. She walked it. Okay. When I got to her land, it was a cocoa field, cacao, what we make cocoa and chocolate from. That field was so vast and so huge. And she owned all of it. And when I asked, how much of this is yours? The people that were interpreting, because she spoke Twi, she didn't speak English 100%. She could speak English, but not 100%. They interpreted as far as your eyes can see. Mama owned land in Ghana, in the Ashanti region, as far as my eyes could see. And we would walk and walk. And I was walking, I had walked an hour, and I was like, I can't keep walking. I mean, that was after I got to the land. It took me 10 minutes to travel up there, driving up there, riding up there. Once I walked for an hour, and I was like, how much further? As far as your eyes could see is how much land that she owned. And they were like, you couldn't even imagine. So we drove through, and it was miles and miles of cacao. And they told me that they shipped that to America and to Europe. But by the time these bags of cocoa or cacao got to America and Europe, the people at the docks or whoever was in control of it would take off. Like, say you had a whole big bag. This is just like a 10-pound bag. They would take out like a half or more out of the cocoa, and then they would weigh it and say, this is all you sent us. And that's all they would pay the Africans and the Ghanaians for all the hard work of harvesting the cocoa and sending it or shipping it. So they weren't getting the money that they deserved, not only from the cacao or the cocoa that they shipped here so we can have and enjoy a chocolate, but also from the gold. When the Europeans were there mining gold and Chinese mining gold, they would not put that money back into the economy. So it was kind of sad to see, but I am very, very grateful that I had the opportunity to actually live in another country, to experience thank you for the blessings, to experience also other cultures and to see for myself what gold mining looked like in another land. And as you all know, gold is, money. It is also used as jewelry, and it actually addresses certain ailments just like silver does. So it was phenomenal, because while I was over there in 2014, I kept saying something is coming for all the Chinese to be there, for all these European countries to be there. And while I was there, I heard, yes, gold is healing. While I was there, I came across a book called Africa is China's Newest Continent. And that is when I started speaking out about gold in 2014. And I also went to the Akwesi Day Fair, where I was able to see the Asante Henny and meet the Asante Henny, which is the King of Kings there in Ghana. And I got some pictures taken while I was there in Ghana. Well, actually, there were journalists there, and they saw me and a Bruni woman, a white woman, they called me, or an American woman there, meeting with the Asante Henny, the King of Kings, the great king of the people there. So they took pictures of me. They thought it was just kind of awesome that I was there, and they did send those pictures to me. And it was just a beautiful experience to actually live on the land, see gold mining, meet the gold miners who were just the guys from the village. Beautiful, beautiful specimen, beautiful men. I mean, you talk about mandingos. I'm talking about great big brawny brothers that were working to mine the gold in Africa. And they showered right outside. And sometimes I had to oh my goodness, because, a lot of them live in and respect nature. So it was just an amazing thing to behold. And I also knew that Ghana was called, and still is called, the Gold Coast. So it was something to behold. From there, I started speaking out on gold. And then 2 years later, when I stepped foot in Africa, 2014. 2 years later, President Trump became the 45th president of the United States Incorporated. And he talked about Dr. Judy Shelton becoming the chair of the chair of the Federal Reserve. And the reason why he chose Dr. Judy Shelton to become the chair of the Federal Reserve is because she's a gold bug. She has a PhD in economics and business. So that's when I knew for certain he was going to return us to the gold standard. So I'll put up some pictures later of me being in the Ghana region. I just wanted to speak a little bit about that, family, before we get into our podcast for the day. So thank you for 611 people being here on the podcast. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, family, if it behooves you to do so, and send a video to certain people that you think could benefit from this video. So what are we talking about today? Keep checking in, family. Oh man, so much. While you're checking in, I'm bringing up President Trump's speeches and some of the articles that talks about what he has been saying he's going to do. So today's podcast is about President Trump saying we are going full prosperity from day one, or beginning day one. And day one, again, is January the 20th, at least as far as we know, unless they decide to do something on on March the 4th. So keep checking in. I'm going to bring this up. It seems like I'm having problems with my Instagram. So I haven't connected my Instagram channel to my StreamYard yet, because once you go live, it's kind of challenging to figure out how you leave that live up from Instagram. So what I do is I just go live from my Instagram channel on my cell phone. We're going full prosperity beginning day one. Hold on. Peace, family. I'm trying to go live from my Instagram, but it doesn't look like they want me to. So we're going to just keep moving on. President Trump said we're going full prosperity beginning from day one. And day one, as we know it, starts January the 20th. Now, he gave a speech from Mar-a-Lago, or from, West Palm Beach, Florida. And some people who saw that speech actually took screenshots of him saying we're going full prosperity from day one. So I'll show you what that screenshot looks like. Hold on, family. It is beautiful to actually see it. And we're going to talk about what that prosperity will look like. Here it is. Here's that screenshot. Ariel copied it on Twitter. Majid had a screenshot of it. It looks beautiful. We're going full prosperity on day one. And Fox News reporters did ask him some questions as it relates to the full prosperity. And we're going to tell you what that was that he talked about today. Oh, Tiamat says Judy Shelton is replacing corrupt Janet Yellen, who never sworn in. Absolutely. Well, since you brought that up, we're going to talk about the full prosperity. I assume that you all saw my video that I showed you the other day. It was actually a video of someone else that talked about how we have so-called elected officials serving right now that never swore according to our Constitution. They've never been sworn in officially, so they've been operating in fraudulence. I'll go over that in a few minutes. I'm sure you guys want to hear about this prosperity first, okay? So you saw that. He said after that, he did this interview with a gentleman by the name of, what was that gentleman's? Don Bongino. And he told Don Bongino, you and your audience, which, by the way, he said your audience has grown massively. Congratulations. But you and your audience are going to be very happy with the things that I'm going to be announcing on Monday. Monday is just in 3 days. It's January the 20th. It's also Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday commemoration. And it is the day before we are to witness this alignment of at least 5 planets. So let's listen to the announcement that he made on this podcast, which was basically the same thing that he said from Mar-a-Lago. Let me know that you can hear this, family. Here we go. I got to hear. This is Dan Bongino's show. If you can hear it, please put a 1 in the chat.
Mr. President, thank you so much for spending time. Congratulations on a massive political win for reorienting the Republican Party in a better, more effective direction with actual diversity, not the left's version of it. And I hope you have a wonderful time on Monday. America is breathing a collective sigh of relief now that you won. Thanks for everything you've done for the country.
And I think you're going to be very, very happy on Monday. And your audience, which is very large, by the way, congratulations. You have a great success. But your very large audience is going to be very happy with the things I'm going to be announcing on Monday.
Wow. We're all looking forward to it. Mr. President, you have us tantalized here. We appreciate it. Thanks for your time, sir. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dan.
You got it.
So I know you could hear it. I don't know. Could you see it all? It wasn't completely full on the screen. So I'll play it for you one more time.
Mr. President, thank you so much for spending time. Congratulations on a massive political win for reorienting the Republican Party in a better, more effective direction with actual diversity, not the left's version of it. And I hope you have a wonderful time on Monday. America is breathing a collective sigh of relief now that you won. Thanks for everything you've done for the country.
And I think you're going to be very, very happy on Monday. And your audience, which is very large, by the way, congratulations. You have a great success. But your very large audience is going to be very happy with the things I'm going to be announcing on Monday.
Wow. We're all looking forward to it. Mr. President, you have us tantalized here. We appreciate it. Thanks for your time, sir. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dan.
You got it. There you go, folks. Like, I was pretty much nailed it right there. It was everything I wanted to get in. I wasn't sure we'd be able to squeeze all those questions in. All right, going to take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll take your calls, 844.
All right. So that's good news. He's saying that we're going to be happy about whatever he announces on January the 4th. So let's see. What are some of the things that he's going to be somebody says I'm tap dancing. Oh, you're saying my skin is glowing. Thank you, Love BN Nubian. And thank you for being our moderator as well. Someone said my skin is glowing. She said, Love BN Nubian says my skin is glowing. Family, I've been on a fruit consecration, means I'm eating fruit only. Okay. No cooked fruit, no dried fruit, only raw, fresh fruits. That means I can eat it, cut up. I do have some frozen fruits in my smoothies. A fruit smoothie, fruit juices, and drinking water, and some herbal teas. So I've been doing it now 7 days. This is the 7th day. I'm doing it for 30 days. At least that's what I intend to do. For 30 days. So far, my energy is higher. I have noticed that I don't want to talk as much. I just feel this calmness that has come over my spirit. I have lost 8 pounds so far in 7 days. This is just the 7th day. The aches and pains that I had in my lower back are gone. And it's probably because I got all that waste out of my body. I don't perspire as much. The different symptoms that I have being a woman of a certain age, how we have certain symptoms, they have decreased significantly. In fact, I haven't had any, attacks with the hot flashes. Occasionally I'll get a little warm, and usually it's because I have something on that doesn't work well with my body chemistry. But the symptoms that I had from being a woman that's over a certain age that relates to menopause, they have decreased. Like my mood is even. I don't have the intense hot flashes. I don't have the stress that I can feel, the hormone inflections that I can feel occurring in my body. And overall, I just feel so much better. If I could sum up how I feel in one word, it would be calm. It would be calm. I actually require less sleep. So how sometimes when you can't sleep, that's a feeling of unrest and you feel uneasy. Well, it's not that I can't sleep. It's that I don't need to sleep. Like I'm reading, I'm studying, I'm doing work at night. And early in the morning, not necessarily because I desire to, but because I'm not sleepy. I just require less sleep. So far with the 7 days of just raw fruits, I again feel energetic. I can go for long walks. I'm not doing any heavy lifting, weightlifting right now, but I just feel overall better. My friends and family members, you all have said my skin looks, better or improved, is glowing. I don't know. I just feel lighter. And so thank you so much for the very, very kind words. I appreciate you, family. That's what's been happening while I've been away. I am on this fruit consecration, and I'll do it again for 30 days. So back to Donald Trump saying that we are going to go full prosperity beginning day one. He's coming out the gate doing some amazing things. He said on Monday, he's going to undo everything that Joe Biden has done through his executive orders. And he said it will be reversed as soon as he steps forward on day one. That's a pretty huge thing to say. So let me show you that magazine article or that news article where he said he's going to reverse everything. So that actually, what he said, I'm going to reverse everything Biden said, came out on a New York Times article. And then I went to a time.com publication where they actually listed the 11 things that President Trump is slated to do on his first day of office. Let me bring that up for you. And then we're going to get into all these people that are serving fraudulently that have not taken an oath of office. But I want to get into this good news first. So these are his day one promises. Now, the article tries to say he's trying to act like a dictator. They said a little over a year ago, Donald claimed he would be a dictator, but only for the first 24 hours of presidency. Now, as his January 20th inauguration approaches, the president-elect's plan for his first day in office are becoming more clear. Let's see those things that he said he would do. Number one, he says he's going to close the border and reinstate travel bans. Now, this might not seem like this relates to prosperity, but in fact, it does, because when you close the borders, then you're not allowing people to come in and take over all of the jobs that we have, and you're not allowing all the money that we have for the American people to be dispersed through welfare programs to various immigrants that are coming in. So his plan is to enforce the borders. He has vowed to close the United States southern border and reinstate what they're calling a controversial travel ban, which suspends refugee admissions into the country. These actions will be performed through a series of executive orders, according to the article. Trump says, I want to close the border. And he said that actually all the way back in December 2023. But I'm going to do this on day one when I become a president. He went further on the topic and explained how that will happen. Secondly, he will have a mass deportation of illegal immigrants and end birthright citizenship. So you guys know that reportedly we have over 11 million illegal aliens in our country. But it's, they're reporting the numbers at 11 million, but it's probably well over 11 million here in America. He intends to launch what he calls the largest mass deportation operations, because again, you can't just close the borders and not allow people in. You got to eject those people that are here unlawfully out. The good thing about this, though, is that people will be able to go back to their home countries and they won't go empty-handed. You all know that with NESARA and GESARA, the National Economic Security and Reformation Act, and the global version of that, the Global Economic Security and Reformation Act, what will happen is all of these people who need money will get money from their home countries, but they have to be in their home countries to receive those monies. So this is a good thing when you consider that a lot of people are here for opportunities, for money, to also, unfortunately, reclaim people's identities, and assume the American identity. So some of this is benevolent, they just want to help themselves, and some of it is not. So again, the good thing is that in order to receive the monies through NESARA and GESARA, they have to be in their home country. We saw Guyana's president say that he is giving a grant, a one-time grant of $100,000 to all Guyanese in South America. But in order for them to receive that money, they have to be in country. That is why President Trump is doing this, because this is all a plan, an agreement that all 209 countries actually did behind the scenes. Okay. So again, the president of Guyana stated, and I've shown you that article, we've done a podcast on that, all his people will receive the grant. They have to be over 21 years old and they have to be in country. Even the people abroad can receive the money as long as they come back home. Other nations will do the same. So let's get back to Trump's promise. Mass deportation and end birthright citizenship. He says he will do this on the first day in the White House. He says his focus will be on removing criminals, recent border crossers, and individuals who have been ordered deported by the courts. Why did he mention criminals? Because a lot of crime that occurs in America, although some of it is by Americans, probably most of it is, you do have a whole lot that has been done by illegal aliens or immigrants, unlawful immigrants that have come here. Many people that were a part of MS-13 gangs actually came across those borders and masqueraded as our Mexican brothers and sisters. So that's why you see a lot of males that are between the ages of 16 and 35 here. Those men were military age men that came with cell phones and guns, a lot of them. So they were involved in criminal activity, and it leads you to believe that perhaps there was a plan to, ignite them. They might have been sleeper cells that could have just been charged with an order to go ahead and strike. Who knows? But President Trump said, not on my watch. We're getting rid of them from day one. Trump also pledged to end birthright citizenship on his first day, which would mean children that are born to undocumented immigrants would not automatically gain United States citizenship. This is a move that is expected to face immediate legal challenges, according to this article. I don't think it's going to do that. They're going to have any illegal challenges because we don't care about legalities. What we care about is what's constitutional. We care about the law, not legalities. Legalities, statutes, codes, policies are related to and correlated with the United States Incorporated. The United States Incorporated is bankrupt and defunct. Legal, nefarious, lawful, good or benevolent. Lawful laws refer to the Constitution. I just wanted to make that clear. So he promises to end birthright citizenship, which is good because that again takes us to Vice President Kamala Harris. She's not really the vice president according to our Constitution and the forefathers of our Constitution and how they framed the rules for becoming a president. You must be natural born American, means you sprung from the soil. You are from America. Okay, not a citizen. And you must be governed by that state in which you were born. So it's not just about proximity. She was allegedly born in Oakland, California, but it's also about allegiance. If you didn't spring from this soil, if your parents aren't from here, your bloodline is not from here, you might not have an allegiance to America. So if you want to fact check me on that, then please look it up. There's a constitutional lawyer by the name of John Eastman, who is a constitutional expert out of California that says the same thing. So Kamala Harris is not a lawful vice president. She is not from America. She's not natural born. Natural born and native born are different. Native means you came from somewhere else. Natural means you sprung from the soil. Okay, you came from here. Your parents came from here. Your ancestry came from here. So it's not just her that's not lawfully serving. It's a whole lot of people that are not naturally serving. He's going to end birthright citizenship. And some people will ask me, how can he do that? His people are from here. He's not from here. He didn't spring from the soil. I'm glad you asked, because President Trump is only serving as a transitional president. That's what Dr. Kia Pruitt is saying. He is transitioning us from the United States Incorporated over to the Republic. He is the one that the military, the Earth Alliance, and people way above them have put in charge, or whoever's playing his role, whoever's under that mask. We know there are many Trumps, okay, where he is being told what to do, okay? He or his character, his avatar will transition us back to the Republic, which never left. So you've had two governments. You've had the United States Incorporated and you had the Republic. The United States Incorporated, as you all know, is a group of bloodline families that usurped authority from our lawful Republic that's always been here, incorporated themselves in 1871 as a non-profit religious organization, religious because the Pope was leading it. And that's why I put up that video. And that is my voice of me saying that Pope Francis warned us that the United States would collapse. That's my video. It's my radio voice. You know, when you are in the so-called Black community, you know how to code switch. You know how to use your professional voice, and you know how to use your regular original voice. And sometimes when you get jobs, when you're on the radio, when you're on the media, you use your professional voice, or what some people would call your Caucasian or your white voice. Thank you for the Cash App blessing, Lawrence Jordan. Oh, hi, Lawrence. I love you. And Cameron and Rosemary Hillard. I appreciate you so much. You know how to use those two voices. But President Trump's, again, he's the transitional president, and he transitions from the United States Incorporated. The COPE was over that. If you guys saw my video, I did do a video where I talked about how Pope Francis, thank you for the Cash App blessing. I appreciate you. How Pope Francis actually, I'm going to show you that video. Pope Francis actually said or warned us that the United States would collapse. That's true. He talked about it in his letter to Obama. That letter is called Motu Proprio. And he said that the United States isn't corporation. He said, here's my video here. He said that, I'll bring it up, that the United States is a corporation. He said that Obama is not the president of the Republic, but that Obama was in fact the president of the United States Incorporated. He went on further to say that, that's the wrong one, that we have government agencies like the FBI, the CIA, and the EPA that are not lawful. And he said they must cease and desist right away. This was in 2014 when Pope said that. We must cease and desist. He said not only are all the federal agencies that are considered bureaus and not part of our government, but they are operating fraudulently. He said police officers, court officials, attorneys, judges, and many people that are creating policies, statutes, law, statute legalities, and codes. We are to cease and desist immediately. And if we do not do that, he said, then the Grand Army of the Republic will be put forward, and General Ham will be over the Grand Army of the Republic, and they will systematically disassemble or take apart, dismantle the United States Incorporated and all the entities that are attached to it. So if you missed that video, since I spoke of Pope Francis actually being over the United States Incorporated, here is my video. It is on my video section of my YouTube channel. This is what it looks like. That is me speaking. A lot of people said that doesn't sound like Dr. Kia Pruitt. That is me speaking. You want to listen to this. It is an audio clip. It's only the actual audio. I'm talking for the first few minutes in that. The actual audio is less than 20 minutes. So listen to that. And then in the description section, I show you the letter. And I also pinned the letter to my comment section here. And it says Pope Francis's letter, Motu Proprio, regarding the collapse of the United States and its federal agencies. So he talked about that in his letter. I can do a whole nother video on that, but I just wanted to make it clear that the United States Incorporated is different from the Republic. We had presidents over the United States Incorporated, okay? And then we had the republic, which is our lawful government here with our own laws, our own constitution for the republic. I keep saying the republic has been lawfully already put in place. Trump is the transitional president, and that's why we saw the Department of Defense come out with these documents that talked about a smooth transition in between presidents. And that came out just a couple of years ago, and they let us know that it was based on the Presidential Transition Act of 1863. But they said that it was important. The Department of Defense said this, it was important for this information to be made public for the public's consumption. And I've done many podcasts on that particular document that came out from the Department of Defense for a smooth transitional presidency. And I knew then that they knew that there could be some issues when President Trump comes back online as the president. So before we continue, I just want to say thank you so much to Sister Diana Peralta for giving us a blessing of $50. God bless you. Heaven smile on you. I appreciate you. You guys don't have to be so kind to me and so amazing to me. Thank you so much. So, hi. Pig Latin. Oh, okay. I need to speak Pig Latin. Thank you. Okay. I will. Oh, I see South Africa in the house. Hi, Sister Magda. It's good to see you as always. Care Bears is in the house. No, that wasn't a fake video of me. It wasn't. It was a real video. Okay, so good day, Brother Anthony. It's always good to see you. Thank you for supporting your sister. So back to the information at hand. Trump is a transitional president, okay? The republic has already been restored in America, and the indigenous, autochthonous people are now being recognized as the sovereign original people. Thank you for the Cash App blessing, Sister Sheila Wallace. Thank you so much. Autochthonous original indigenous people are now being recognized, and I'll show you a video of them being recognized in Mexico. It's going to happen here in America as well. We talked about the autochthonous indigenous people being the copper-colored people, the Black people, the African Americans that are here did not come from African slave ships. Well, we were here already. We had our own government. Even when Europeans came here, they had the 13 colonies. And as Obama and Trump have said before, Morocco was the first nation to acknowledge us as our own nation, because even though we had European people to come here and set up the colonies, in that area, most of it was in the, what do they call that area? New England area. We recognize them. Morocco, Al-Morocco, Amorica. Okay. This is Amorica. This is America, Al-Morocco, the North Gate, Northwest Africa. This is the Morocco of which Trump and Obama was speaking, that acknowledged the Europeans that came here as their own nation. They had their own flag of commerce. They were doing their own commerce. They were escaping all of the nefarious activities that were going on in Europe by those beings, those bloodline families, and those non-human interdimensional beings that were doing the same thing they're doing here, enslaving the people, taking the blood of the children, the udblay, Pig Latin, the organs, and doing nefarious things to the children and African trade of Umanhays. Yeah, I hope y'all know Pig Latin. The same thing they're doing here, these interdimensional beings who are very dark and melanated, okay, they came from Europe, did the same thing here, and they can masquerade as the autochthonous indigenous peoples here. Because as many of you know, we were seeded here by interdimensional beings. Some were good and some were not. And then other beings came here and enslaved the planet and took control of our planet, of our government, of our foods, of our culture, et cetera, of everything, and infiltrated every segment of our society. Okay. So now we have a group of them that have returned, that are back, that are here to help us. That's the disclosure that's about to come out. And they're trying to trickle that information out little by little by calling a lot of these ships or these vehicles through which they travel drones, but they're not drones. Okay. Many of them, some of them might be drones that they just put up there, but they're masquerading this whole thing like it's just a bunch of drones that this, came from nowhere. But notice these drones or these ships are actually over military bases to guard those bases and make sure there's no nuclear attacks or there's nothing that will be set off to unleash a catastrophic event, because they're here. They've come back to help humanity and to help return all of the joy, the prosperity, and sovereignty back to we, the people on the planet. Now, you're going to see people that is going to come ahead, try to come ahead of this information and say, oh, hey, my name is so-and-so, and I just want to let you know that we're about to have extraterrestrial information coming out. And so since it's going to happen, let me give you this information first, because I'm going to be the precursor to all this information and news coming out. Well, we've already seen the ships. Many of you are contactees. Many of you are contactees from other life and other dimensions. Many of you are the future versions of yourselves that have come here to help the planet. So you know that this information is coming out because we are in the era of disclosure and in the era of Aquarius, right? The age of Aquarius. So let's get back to what Donald Trump promised he would do. You know, I go off on my tangents. The first thing he said he was going to do was close the borders and reinstate travel bans, mass deportation and birthrights. And that's how I got on Kamala Harris. She is not a lawful vice president. The way they framed it, the forefathers framed it, is you have to come from the land. You have to be autogenous or from America, natural born, and you have to be subject to the jurisdiction of the state in which you were born. She's not qualified. He's going to pardon J6 prisoners. As you all know, many of you have listened to Chief Pontiac or Chief Rod Hayes and some other people, you know, from me as well, that a lot of the J6ers people there, while some of them may have been there to cause some type of disruption, many of them were actually placed there to stake the totem pole in the Capitol and reclaim that house for us, for we the people. That's why he did that. That was a military personnel dressed in Native American garb, staking a claim. He's held the totem pole there for a certain amount of time to let the people know we're taking back the house. As a matter of fact, that's not in this article. This is Dr. Kia Pruitt talking. As a matter of fact, the Capitol is considered the people's house. Okay, these people work for us. And according to the Constitution, you can establish your own militia anytime you know or see a coup d'etat taking place where somebody has come on your land and taken over your government. So this may be one of the reasons why President Donald Trump is actually pardoning J6 people or prisoners of war. So this is his personal promise to pardon those convicted for their roles in the J6 2021 so-called Capitol riot. He repeatedly indicated that he will act quickly, issuing pardons for many of the more than 1,500 individuals convicted of crimes or alleged crimes related to their involvement in storming the Capitol in protest of the electoral certification. Now, when you really think about it and how the Constitution says that you can establish a militia and you can drag out these people and you can reclaim your country back, does it really look like they were doing something unlawfully? Well, it was 1,500 people that were convicted. 1 + 5 = 6. They love that number 6. Asked by Time, TIME, or Time Magazine or Time Publication in December, what was the first 24 to 48 hours of his administration, what that would look like, Trump said, I'll be looking at J6 early on, maybe within the first 9 minutes. A fourth thing he said he will do immediately is end the Russian-Ukrainian war. Trump repeatedly said that before taking office, he would put an end to the war between Russia and Ukraine, which was allegedly a violent conflict that raged for nearly 3 years. This is allegedly a Russia invasion of the Ukraine that occurred on February 2022. But you know, I have to give my spin on it. The reason why Putin went to the the Ukraine was, number one, it was a part of Russia, the Soviet Union anyway, to begin with. So he has a right to go and reclaim his territory. But secondly, he was uncovering all the unlawful activity that was going on there, all of the laundering, all of the Umanhay, African trade, Dre, African trade, Ani, May, Andring Lay, laundering. Okay. And a lot of that information was either sent to James Comer, who is the chair of the House Oversight Committee, or at least it confirmed and affirmed the things that James Comer had stated that he uncovered or he accumulated over time, this evidence against Biden and his crime family. So if you want to know what some of that information is, you can go to oversight.house.gov, or you can just Google the House Oversight Committee's website and go to that search engine of that website, type in Biden, and you will see all the criminal things that James Comer uncovered and revealed from the Biden administration. But back to the war in Ukraine, much of that information that Putin uncovered coincides with what James Comer discovered and revealed to the public on the House Oversight Committee. So Putin went to the Ukraine to bring back that territory back under him, and also to reveal what was going on. And when he did that, 46, remember that war started February 2022. That's a good, important date to keep in mind. Year anyway, 2022. Putin did that, and then Biden put sanctions on Vladimir Putin. Remember, you created this war, and this conflict has to stop. Therefore, we're putting sanctions on you, Biden said. So he told all exporting nations not to do any business with Vladimir Putin, to not touch Vladimir Putin. We're not going to have any allegiances with what you're doing. But we know that Operation Sandman or Project Sandman was an agreement between 209 nations that when triggered, they would stop trading with the United States dollar, drop the dollar for trade, and then use their own local currencies backed by gold, palladium, platinum, and other resources, including rare earth minerals. That agreement is called Project Sandman. All Putin was doing was triggering Project Sandman. You heard what I said? When triggered. When triggered, 209 countries agreed that they would stop trading with the United States dollar and use their own currency. Putin was that trigger. So when Biden put sanctions on Putin for going to the Ukraine, Putin just clapped back and said, I'm not scared of you. You could put sanctions on me. And Putin then dropped the dollar, stopped trading with the United States dollar, and started trading with the Russian ruble. In February 2022, as soon as Biden put sanctions on him, then what happened? The Russian ruble became the strongest performing currency in the world in 2022. You can look it up. Strongest performing currency in the world. Not only did he use the Russian ruble, but he encouraged many of the BRICS nations to do the same, because he knew that his plan, we're talking about Vladimir Putin, was then to encourage the BRICS nations or the BRICS bloc to also stop trading with the United States dollar. So again, what was the trigger? Project Sandman was an agreement between 209 nations to, when it triggered, stop trading with the United States dollar, use their own local currencies. I don't know why this keeps coming up. Use their own local currencies backed by precious metals, and therefore become sovereign. Anytime you are over your own country's currencies and you use your own country's currency, you are declaring or proclaiming and operating in your freedom and in your sovereignty as your own people, and not being ruled and governed by the United States Incorporated. So once Vladimir Putin did that, you can see this New York Post says that the Russian ruble, if I can get rid of this, the Russian ruble became the best performing currency of 2022 despite sanctions. Okay. You can look up those articles. This article right here by the New York Post will tell you why. After that happened, Vladimir Putin then encouraged Brazil, Russia, remember he's over Russia, India, China, and South Africa to do the same. Stop trading with the dollar. That's when the value of the dollar plummeted and gold and silver went up, because it's a basic economic principle that in order that whenever you see the dollar decrease in value, precious metals will increase in value. So Vladimir Putin inspired and encouraged Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa to stop trading with the dollar. And then Saudi Arabia said, you know what? I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to stop trading with the dollar and I'm going to join BRICS. This happened in 2022, although mainstream media didn't start talking about BRICS and talking about all these nations, aligning with each other till 2023 and 2024. Then BRICS became known as SAL BRICS. Then other exporting nations applied to join BRICS. And along with that, Putin and some of the nations that were a part of Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa bloc tapped on the shoulders of other exporting nations and said, hey, let's all join. Let's all coalesce against the United States Incorporated, the group of bloodline families that usurped authority from America. And they actually incorporated themselves in 1871 as a nonprofit religious organization and proclaimed that they are a republic, but they're not. Let's all coalesce as a BRICS bloc against the United States Incorporation. They weren't coalescing necessarily against America, but against the institution, the United States Incorporated, and stop trading with the dollar and use our own country's currency. In the interim, before we use our own country's currency, that we'll use the Russian ruble. And that's why the Russian ruble became the strongest performing currency in the world in 2022. But while Putin was doing that, he also encouraged the people in not only the BRICS bloc, but the African nations that had not yet joined. He said, if you guys agree to join the BRICS bloc and stop trading with the dollar, I'll back you up. I will militarily, I will provide you with grains so you don't have to get it from the United States Incorporated and all their allies, and I will write off your debt. So that was enticing, and many African nations said, you know what, cool, we're going to do that. We will do that. Some African nations said, no, thank you. We don't need your grains. We don't need your support. We're going to be okay. But many of them said, yes, we'll take your grains, we'll take your support, and we will take your military support, and we will thankfully, accept the write-off of all the debts. And that inspired many African nations then to use their own currencies. That inspired many African nations such as Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali, Senegal, and Chad to expel the French from their territories, to expel the French colonists. Because remember, according to what's the name of that agreement? Berlin Conference, the Berlin Conference in the 1800s, the European nations, they all met and decided they would divide the African continent for themselves or steal their resources. So those were probably interdimensional bloodline families too that actually did that. Okay. When that happened, you had the French to colonize those 5 nations as well as many others that I named. So you had those 5 nations to kick the colonists off of their continent, accept the grains and the support from Russia, and use their own country's currencies for trade. Not just the African nations did that, but now we have, in 2022, I reported this. Back then, it was 85% of the global population that had joined the BRICS bloc. We had 85% of the global population in 2022 that said we are going to join Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa in dropping the dollar and using our own currency and using gold and silver. But the trigger was Vladimir Putin. The trigger, okay, what set it off? He was the catalyst. So when he went to Ukraine and exposed all that stuff that was going on, that just led to a whole chain of events. And that is why Biden put sanctions on Vladimir Putin. Okay, that was the real reason they had a Russia-Ukraine war, because Ukraine was a cesspool for all of these nefarious people doing all type of laundering, stealing, trafficking, doing things, doing their deep underground military bases, creating weapons of mass destruction, like diseases that shut down the whole world. Okay, so that's what that war was about. But mainstream media put a spin on it and said he was just invading Ukraine and he was causing a mess. And Trump and many people just kind of went along with the whole how do you say it, the way they spun it, the narrative, the rhetoric that it's a war that must end. Because you can't, they play these games where they speak in codes and they feel like they can't just come straight out and tell the truth of why this war is really occurring. So President Trump, again, agreed he would end that war. Okay. That was the fourth component of what he said he's going to do. Next, the fifth thing he's going to do beginning day one is end the electrical vehicle mandate and the new Green Deal policy. Now, I've looked into these electrical vehicles, and this is something that Biden has said that we need to do. We need to go to using all these electrical vehicles because allegedly, according to Biden, they're better for the economy. They're better for the ecology, the ecosystem as well. But when I looked into the electrical vehicles, there's a lot of faulty electronic devices within those electrical vehicles. They do not cost less money. Thank you so much for the Cash App blessing. They don't cost less money. In fact, they're more time consuming when it comes to powering them up. It takes a whole lot of hours to power them up. You have to keep buying the parts for them. Many of those parts come out of China, okay? And we are doing our best, we know, to stop depending on other nations. So President Trump said, I'm going to get rid of that on day one. He's going to reverse many of the climate-related policies instituted by the Biden administration. His plan includes ending the so-called electrical vehicle mandate and scrapping the Biden administration's climate subsidies. I will end the electrical vehicle mandate on day one, Trump said in his address at the Republican National Convention. He also said the other day from Mar-a-Lago, I'm going to do certain things that will put us right into a prosperity era. So he said that those policies were part of a Green New Span that actually hurt America's energy producers and their families. His day one executive orders would likely focus on, executive orders will focus on lifting restrictions on fossil fuel production and reversing mandates on electrical vehicles, while he also pledges to expand domestic oil drilling, including the reversal of offshore drilling bans imposed under the current administration. So we don't need to depend on anybody else when we can drill here in America. We have oil, not just in Texas, we have oil in many, many places here in America. And so President Trump is going to expand domestic drilling. 6, he's going to roll back federal regulations. Now, this we know he's saying he's going to do, but I keep telling you all, whoever's playing this Trump character is actually being told what to do. You guys know this anyway. Presidents are just figureheads, okay? But there is a power, an entity, an Earth Alliance behind President Trump. We already know that the Supreme Court this summer overturned the Chevron doctrine, right? So we know that this has to happen. What was the Chevron doctrine? The Chevron doctrine has said that federal agencies, these bureaus, FBI, CIA, EPA, all of them, I gave you a list of 441. I can put that in the description section of my YouTube and Rumble channel for you as well. But these companies, these agencies, which call themselves federal agencies, were allowed to create any statutes, any law, so-called law, legalities, any codes, and any policies that they wanted. And they can force we, the American people, to abide by them. For example, you must pay taxes through the IRS, according to them. Now, if you know that paying taxes is actually voluntary, okay? But they would pressure you to pay taxes. And if you didn't, you can participate in other ways. I know. They would force you to get a driver's license through the Department of Motor Vehicles. And if you didn't get a driver's license, then your license would, you couldn't drive. Or if you didn't update it, then your license would be suspended. And then you could lose your not only your privilege to drive, but you could, actually not do business, because if your license your license get suspended, then how would you prove or verify that this is your identification? But you had that. You had HOA saying you couldn't grow your own food in your yard that you paid taxes for, or bought the home and the land that you bought. You couldn't grow your own food. Well, these government agencies were allowed to create those statutes, codes, and policies, and the courts would enforce that. Their policy enforcers, known as police officers, would enforce that. And if you did not agree, you could go to jail and face penalties. Okay. That was the Chevron doctrine. And if you try to appeal it, or you try to reverse it or speak against any of these government agencies, then the courts, the judges and the courts, will defer back to those agencies and say they are the experts. Well, this summer, the Supreme Court of the United States overturned the Chevron doctrine and said no longer can these agencies declare themselves as federal because they're unconstitutional and they're treasonous, but they have been operating in fraud and they must be dismantled. They went further and they said that any judge who knew of these agencies doing these, creating statutes, policies, and codes against the American people, any of the judges that knew this and deferred back to them anytime the case was brought to court, they have committed treason. And any judge that knew of a judge that allowed that to happen committed misprision of treason. So this is why President Trump has said that he's going to reduce government and end the IRS. And I did a whole podcast on President Trump says he's going to downsize the government and get rid of income taxes. So that's why this is the sixth component of President Trump's day one promise. Roll back federal regulations. In a bid to lower the cost of living for Americans, Trump has promised to eliminate numerous federal regulations, which he urges have driven up the cost of goods and services. This is why he said we're going to have prosperity beginning on day one, because rolling back federal regulations would put more money into our pockets. No more paying licenses to have a business, a license to drive a car, a license to become certain professionals. No more of that. They're treasonous. Okay. So can you see that the republic is being restored? Our lawful government is being restored. Again, you had the United States Incorporated that usurped authority from our republic that was operating, but the republic has always been here. We've been operating side by side. That's why you had some sovereign people or some people who knew how to operate outside of the public. They didn't even have to call themselves sovereign. I'm not talking about sovereign citizens. That's a misnomer. You can't be sovereign and citizen at the same time. You're a citizen, you're a slave. You're sitting in sin. You're a slave of the corporation. But if you're sovereign, so you can't put those two words together, or you shouldn't. I'm talking about people who knew how to operate in their sovereignty and operate outside the jurisdiction of the government. They didn't pay taxes. No, never, or income taxes. And they weren't stopped by the police. They didn't have licenses. They knew how to operate under the republic. So the two governments were operating at the same time, side by side. Well, now the United States Incorporated has been dismantled. It is defunct. It is insolvent. And is going away. And this is the evidence. And I've been showing you evidence all along over the last 4 or 5 years. No, gosh, no, it's been longer than that. Over the last 7 or 8 years. Wow. But other people have as well. The next, or I think we might be on 7 or 8. Component is banning transgender individuals in women's sports and the military. Trump has vowed to make moves on his first day in office to protect what he describes as women's rights. And the way he's going to do this is by banning transformers or transformed women from competing in women's sports. These are men that were born as men, stating that they are women so that they can compete in women's sports and go into the bathrooms and look at your little girls. Okay, so Trump is putting a ban on that. While with the stroke of a pen on day one, Notice that D and O are capitalized. Anybody that's in Gematria, if you have the time, can you go to gematrix.com, and that's the Gematria calculator, and look up what day one means. What are the numbers that correlate with that, and some of the other things that will pop up? Because usually if he does this, it means that he's speaking in code. With a stroke of the pen on day one, we're going to stop the transformation or transgender lunacy, he said in his Turning Points USA event. I will sign executive orders to end child expose mutilation and get the transformers out of the military and out of our elementary schools and middle schools and high schools. Okay, so he added that under the Trump administration, it will be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female. Next, he's going to cut federal spending for woke schools. That woke agenda that was put into the schools from the far left is going to be cut out. Thank God. He vowed to take a stance against what he calls woke educational policies, particularly teaching critical race theory or CRT. I know a lot of people, especially people from the community classified as Black, that are actually the indigenous people. Okay, they have been fed critical race theory so long that they are addicted to it. A lot of them, and they want to continue it. They think that not talking about slavery will somehow harm people. But I support getting rid of critical race theory because it's not true that we came from slave ships in Africa. There are no slave ships around to support that thesis. And we know for a certainty that that information will be disclosed when you read books like They Came Before Columbus, when you look at the accounts by the people that came from Europe, you look up the accounts of Christopher Columbus was also melanated. You will know that the people that they're calling Black and African American were already here. That's why the 1828 Webster's definition of American says the copper-colored races found here by Christopher Columbus, but now applied to Europeans. Okay, because we didn't come from Africa. So this whole slave narrative needs to stop. This is Dr. Kia Pruitt speaking. You're teaching your children to be perpetual victims, and you're teaching European brothers and sisters that they should feel some guilt from stories that are being passed down. Now, whether or not their family members own slaves is one thing, but to make them feel guilty and like they have to pay for what their forefathers did is not fair. Okay, because the truth of the matter is people that look like me own slaves too. Okay, and the truth of the matter is that the word slave comes from Slavics. So when Europeans came here, a lot of them were actually, don't say it, Pruitt, sex slaves and slaves of the people who brought them here. So should they get reparations too? Well, of course they should. We all need to be repaired and compensated for what we've been through. But Trump has vowed to take a stance against what he calls woke educational policies, particularly the teachings of critical race theory. On day one, he said he plans to cut federal spending to schools that teach CRT or schools that teach the injections or certain things to alleviate sicknesses. Y'all know what the word begins with V. He's going to get rid of those policies. And he aims to ban CRT from being taught in the armed forces as well. And I am in agreement with that. So those were just some of the promises. And that was in the Time magazine. But there's another article that goes even more. Thank you, Mark. Mark Jameson says Dr. Pruitt is the best. There are more. Let me get to my notes. He says he will be, here it is. I'm going to bring the other 5 that I didn't mention. Okay. Prosperity begins on day one. And I did find it peculiar that he said prosperity begins on day one. Did y'all look up day one? But he didn't actually say the date. Will it be January the 20th when he's going to get sworn in? When we know that the lawful inauguration for the Republic is March 4th? Perhaps he will be inaugurated on January the 20th, and then we have to have lawful elections, according to Nassar anyway, 120 days after January. We're supposed to have lawful elections 120 days after NESARA is announced. These things that he's announcing, they do sound like a NESARA. They are in alignment with NESARA. So perhaps we're going to have lawful republic inauguration or elections, around March 4th. I don't know. Right. We're not blaming the ancestors for any of this high deception, family. That's right. So I told you some of the promises that Trump gave us. Now let me look at the rest. This article by AP News said Trump offered a bountiful batch of campaign promises that come due on day one. All right. Okay, he is there. This article is saying Monday. Okay. We talked about the largest deportation program in American history. That's what Trump said he would do. What else? On day one, I will close the border and stop the invasion of illegal criminals coming into our countries. That's 2. 3, I will sign executive orders ending automatic citizenship from the children that were born of illegal aliens. We talked about that. That's 3. 4, I like this one, tariffs. He will impose 25% tariffs on all imports from Canada and Mexico and put an additional 10% tariff on everything from China as one of his first executive orders upon becoming president. And you know what that does by imposing tariffs on Canada and Mexico is actually cause Trudeau to step down from Canada. It caused the president of Mexico to take certain actions. Now in front of the camera, she's giving Trump backlash for saying he's going to impose a tariff on her. But behind the scenes, she's making some very monumental decisions, like mandating that the indigenous peoples, including the so-called Afro-Indigenous or Black Indigenous Mexicans, she is proclaiming that they must be acknowledged as sovereign, as being the first peoples in Mexico. The Afro-Indigenous people in Mexico are now being acknowledged. So again, Trump has to do what he has to do. Of course, he's being told what to do by Earth Alliance, but putting taxes and tariffs on these countries will cause them to make certain moves to say, okay, you got me, uncle, you twisted my arm. It's over. It's a wrap. I give. Remember we used to do this. What do you call this? Where you have to do the thing here and you have the arm wrestling and the person that was stronger would bend your arm all the way down. Okay. Well, he got him in a hole. Okay. Mexico and Canada will become part of America again, because that's the way it used to be. Remember, I talked about Al-Marak, Amorica, America, Turtle Island, Northwest Africa, the North Gate, all the same thing, America or Amorica. We had our own nation here before things were divided and before the United States Incorporated bloodline families usurped authority from our republic. America included Canada. America included Mexico. And Trump was letting us know this before he left office the first time. And that's why he came up with the trade agreements between the United States, Mexico, and Canada. And he called it the UMCA. He was just letting us know, I'm bringing back everything back under control. And sometimes you have to exert tariffs or do certain things, make certain power moves that will cause people to step down and people to do what they need to do, because they're all going to come back and conform. That's why Vladimir Putin went to the Ukraine, to expose all the stuff that was going on there. Strong-armed them, and he's bringing the Ukraine right back under the auspices or the umbrella of the Soviet Union. So Trump said he would impose a 25% tariff on all imports from Canada and Mexico. Remember, Trudeau just stepped down from Canada, okay? Was it Canada? Yes, it's Canada. and put an additional 10% tariff on China. Now, the way they used to do things, family, before they created the IRS, the way the government used to make money was actually to impose tariffs on countries. But they changed that and they started imposing tariffs or taxes on we the people. Trump he's only reversing things and putting them back to the way they were anyway. Let's see. They said transformer rights. I guess they don't like the fact that on day one, he's going to sign the executive order to cut federal spending to any schools that push CRT or transformational education. We talked about the electrical vehicles, how he's going to undo all of that. He's going to take care of the J6ers or the political prisoners and pardon them. Now with energy, his promise. He's going to declare a national energy emergency and approve new energy projects starting day one. What does this mean if he keeps his promise? I want to say when, because it's not just him. Okay. He is being told what to do, guided by and enforced by the military, Earth Alliance, and the beings that are on this planet to help us, to help the people, to help what people are calling humanity. All of them are actually orchestrating this elaborate plan to restore our prosperity and sovereignty. A national emergency might give him more authority to act unilaterally. A national emergency, interesting. It remains questionable how much can be accomplished on this front without action from Congress. That's what they say, but Congress actually, they're con men and they're con women, okay? They didn't sign oaths of office. They're going to be done away with. Most of them have already been dealt with in Puerto Rico. Y'all know what happens in Puerto Rico by Gitmo. But he can reverse Biden's executive orders on renewable energy and environmental protection. What he's been saying is drill, baby, drill. That was his mantra when he when he came out, talking about making America great again in his public remarks and his speeches. Drill, baby, drill. Starting day one, he said he will improve new drilling, new pipelines, new refineries, new power plants, new reactors, and will slash the red tape. Woo! I will immediately issue a national emergency declaring to achieve a massive increase in domestic energy, he said. Another thing, this is Dr. Kia Pruitt's commentary, he will do is he will bring home a lot of those companies that went abroad. When America started making it very hard for these industries and factories to be here by raising the taxes and creating all these policies and statutes and codes, not when America did it, when the United States Incorporated did that, the companies just went abroad. They went to China. They used the Chinese people at cheap labor to do most of the manufacturing. That's why everything's made in China. And so just as an aside, when the whole world was shut down and we had that whole global, a lot of those agencies that had left America and went to China, once Trump started talking about, that whole tariff and trade tax war between China and America, a lot of those companies that left here went to China, then went to Vietnam. And that's how Vietnam started thriving. Vietnam, even during the global shutdown, was thriving. A lot of their ports were open. They were still doing business. Their GDP was going up. They had businessmen there from all over the world because the people that had been in China, those companies could still take advantage of the cheap labor in Vietnam. And then Vietnam made trade agreements with Southeast Asian countries. So Vietnam is not only thriving today, and not only with their currency, the Vietnamese dong, boom, and be reinstated back to its pre-law, pre-sanctioned values, but it will explode in value, okay, for all of you that are invested in Vietnam. And keep in mind that the Vietnamese leader actually called upon American billionaires and American entrepreneurs last year and asked them to come in invest in our country because we have a lot of resources to be exploited. Vietnam did that, Venezuela did that, and Iraq. So if you hold the Vietnamese dong, the Venezuelan bolivar, or the Iraqi dinar, know that all of their presidents asked for American entrepreneurs and billionaires and oil billionaires to invest in their countries. So again, the way we started talking about Vietnam was that a lot of the countries that left America went to China, and then they went to Vietnam, which caused their Vietnam to their country to do very well. So Trump is now calling many of those countries back home. Okay. And if you come back, not those countries, those companies, if you come back home and you put the factories back in the country, then people will have jobs here, and we will thrive as a nation. So this is just amazing for all of you that are looking forward to NESARA, GESARA, and all of these beautiful things that will happen in the very near future. What else? He says, I'll get the war, you get rid of the war with the Ukraine and Russia. And then he has a deep state promise. I will launch an effort to fire or otherwise neutralize the influence of federal workers that he considers disloyal and an impediment to his agenda. Also, he's going to use legal intimidation or other means to crush those that he regards as his political enemies. Who are his political enemies? Or who are the enemies of the Republic? I'll put it that way. The enemies of the Republic would be the United States Incorporated, the 441 agencies that I told you that the Supreme Court overturned through when they overturned the Chevron doctrine. He's going to get rid of all of them. Let me see if I can find this for you, Chevron. 441 agencies. What are those 441 agencies? Are all the enemies of the Republic? And what they're saying here is the enemies of Trump. The 441 agencies that call themselves federal, that the Supreme Court of the United States ruled as fraudulent, unconstitutional, and TREASONOUS are right here. I have a list of 441 of them. They all must be dismantled. Any of the duties of these agencies that could serve us. Thank you so much. Thank you for saying I'm amazing. I appreciate you. Any of those that could serve us would be absorbed into other benevolent agencies. And I put the list of 441 agencies here in the chat for you guys. And I'll also put it in the description section. I'll just put it in the chat. I don't know if you can copy it and paste it from the chat, but if you can, do that, and then you'll see that list for yourself. You're welcome. Marlo says, thank you. You're welcome. Is it possible to talk to Princess Elizabeth? I speak to her every day. I don't know if you can talk to her. I'm not sure, but I can bring her back on the show and you guys can ask her questions. I'll be happy to do that. So let's get back to what Trump said he's going to do. This article again is apnews.com. You'll see that on the very first day of my presidency, the deep state is destroying our nation, but the tables must turn and we will quickly destroy the deep state. All right. So according to this article, his likely first step is an executive order seeking to reclassify tens of thousands of job protected and political civil servants as political appointees, subject to being fired at his will. He would do so by reviving his Schedule F order from 2020, which Biden reversed when he took office. Excuse me. Let me take a minute. I'm going to take a pause here because it's saying his likely first step is an executive order seeking to reclassify tens of thousands of job protected and apolitical civil servants as political appointees that are subject to be fired at his will. Of course, he's going to fire a lot of people because a lot of people are serving unlawfully. Can I take a pause here? Let me take a pause right quick. Family, I know this is lengthy. I need to show you something. And then I want to show you proof that a lot of our elected officials have not sworn an allegiance to the Constitution, which is something they are supposed to do. Hold on 1 minute. You're going to find this particular brief video on my YouTube channel where it talks about how many of these so-called elected officials like Janet Yellen, like Vice President Kamala Harris, and many of them, if not all of them, have not sworn. Not only not sworn to the Constitution, but there's no written evidence of it. There's just nothing. And when a lawsuit was filed against them, they provided no evidence. I'm going to show you that lawsuit. But first, let's pause. If you're interested in getting any gold or silver, family, because we have spoken about gold and silver, make sure you give our friends at Miles Franklin a call at 952-929-7006 or send an email to info@milesfranklin.com and let them know that Dr. Kia Pruitt referred you for silver and gold. Look at this. Put a 1 in the chat, please. Let me know you can hear this. And if you can't, put a 2. 1 if you can hear it. What did I say this was going to be? We have elected officials that have not sworn an allegiance to our Constitution. And there was a woman by the name of Lisa McGee that brought a lawsuit. She is against them. She is the petitioner. Listen to this short video, please.
Do we have public servants in office who are acting as elected officials without swearing an allegiance to the Constitution? A writ of quo warranto has been filed in the U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington, D.C., stating that numerous oaths of office cannot be found on file for many of our federal public officials, including Vice President Kamala Harris and Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin. Also on the list of missing oaths of office include the CDC Director, Rochelle Walensky, Secretary of Treasury, Janet Yellen, Secretary of Energy, Jennifer Granholm, the FDA Commissioner, Janet Woodcock, Secretary of Health and Human Services, Xavier Becerra, Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, and the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, Secretary of Education, Dr. Miguel Cadorna, Secretary of Commerce, Gina Raimondo, the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, and the Commissioner of the FDA, Robert Califf, Secretary of Labor, Marty Walsh, Deputy Secretary of Labor, Julie Su, and the remedy sought for those individuals who have failed or refused to produce an affidavit as required by 5 U.S. Code, subsection 3332, demand that those persons provide the U.S. Attorney and the court in Washington, D.C. with the compulsory affidavit within 10 days. For those individuals who do not produce the affidavit within the 10 days and who have admitted that they do not possess the requisite affidavit, and those who have produced defective affidavits, they must immediately terminate their appointments or positions, render all official acts, bills, laws, regulations, or any official actions whatsoever, including the appointment of any subordinates, void ab initio, as well as replace and restore all proper and former office holders until competent replacements can be lawfully appointed. In order to be effective as a sworn declaration, it must either be sworn before a notary public or sworn under penalty of perjury per 18 U.S. Code subsection 1746. Once again, the issue before the U.S. Attorney is straightforward. Petitioner has sought the required affidavits prescribed in 5 U.S. Code subsection 3332 from all appointees referenced via the Freedom of Information Act. And this request and not one of the aforementioned appointees have produced a compliant affidavit consistent with applicable statutes. Either the affidavits are non-existent, wanting, defective, or the appointee has failed or refuses to provide the mandated affidavit to hold their respective offices. Follow rightnow.news and at Ann Vandersteel on CloutHub, Twitter, Truth, and Getter for more on this story.
So, family, you see that there are elected officials. Oh, I think I hear something that have not. Hold on. That have not sworn to the Constitution, not sworn, right, or an oath of office. And I'm going to show you the petitioner's lawsuit right here. Let's see if I can find that. And they had 10 days to show proof that they had sworn office, and they haven't. Let's see, where is that? I pulled it up, but let me see if I can find it. I have so many articles pulled up. Please. Here it is. Yep. It's at oneofhisfootmen.org that actually shows this particular document that I'm pulling up. Let me know what you think about this, family. I mean, I know a lot of you knew of this anyway, and this is why the Brunson brothers, the trumpet players, everything happens for a trumpet. Donald Trump, he is the Trump card. This is the Trump that's been blown in Zion. That's going to, let everybody know what's been going on and dismantle the deep state. So the Brunson brothers, they also brought a lawsuit against Biden, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, and 385 members of Congress. And according to the Brunson brothers lawsuit, if in fact it is proven that they are a security breach and they knew about what was happening in 2020 and in 2022 with the things that happened at the voting place, if all of that was fraudulent and they knew about it or participated in it, then all of them have to step down. Biden, Harris, Pelosi, and 385 members of Congress, they have to be stripped and dealt with, assets frozen, and all of their credentials stripped and never serve again. Now, a lot of us know or have been told through military personnel that this actually already happened behind the scenes and that they have been dealt with at Gitmo. So that was the Brunson brother case. Of course, the Supreme Court didn't hear that case when they brought it a couple years ago. And then Lloyd Brunson, who we have interviewed a couple times, that he found a loophole in the law that says if the Supreme Court of the United States doesn't hear that case, they can be held for treason. So then a writ of memorandus was accepted that will allow, what is his name? What is Justice Clarence Thomas to independently decide on that case? So we then heard that he heard the case, okay? And that, when he heard that case, it was determined that that whole administration committed fraud and need to be stripped. Okay, so that's one case right there, or two or three cases in one with the Brunson brothers case. This here is what we just showed you. This was a case that was brought forward by Lisa, what was her name? Lisa McGee. The entire federal cabinet violates U.S. codes, have no oath of office on file. A new court filing, this actually happened in court 2 years ago. No, maybe even 3 years ago, 2023. That's 2 years ago, about 2.5 years ago, that the case was brought proving or uncovering that they hadn't sworn any oath of office. But to this day, no documents have been found that says they did indeed take allegiance or pledge allegiance or give an oath of office to our Constitution or to our nation to this day. So, of course, Trump is going to eliminate or downsize the government. That, as well as the Brunson brother case and the Supreme Court of the United States overturning the Chevron doctrine, all the bases are covered. So this is a new court filing, reveals that Kamala Harris, Merrick Garland, and other leading Democrats in the Biden administration, including Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, Homeland Security Secretary Alejandra Mayorkas, and Transportation Secretary Peter Buttigieg, have no oath of loyalty to the United States Constitution on file as required by law. A writ of quo warranto filed in Washington, D.C. asserts that oaths of office for high-ranking members of Biden's cabinet are nowhere to be found, and blatant violation of the United States Code that requires all elected officials to keep a sworn affidavit of their oath on file, proving their sworn constitutional allegiance to the United States and to the United States Constitution, which, United States Incorporated is defunct anyway. So what Trump is doing is actually taking down the whole United States Incorporated and everything that comes along with it. Okay. So all of that, remember, he's the transitional president, transitioning us to the republic. All that has to be dismantled. Filed by attorneys on behalf of the petitioner, Lisa McGee, the court motion is asking the U.S. attorney in the District of Columbia to require that a laundry list of elected officials and appointed Biden administration officials produce their oath of affidavits within 10 days to prove that they've actually met the constitutional and legal requirements to hold office. She's been asking for that for a while. But it never happened. And it goes on to tell you why this is important. It is important because you need to know that they have your best interest at heart, in short, or in summary, or that they're acting on behalf of the United States Incorporated, which would actually be having the citizens' best interest at heart. But we're not citizens, we're sovereign people. However, I just wanted to let you see that there was no timely response. Alejandro Mayorkas failed to respond. Xavier Becerra failed to respond. Miguel Cardona, all of these, Raimondo, Marty Walsh, Kamala Harris failed to respond. Anthony Blinken, Janet Yellen, who was over the United States. Was she over the Federal Reserve or the United States? Who was Janet Yellen? She was the chair of the Federal Reserve. She failed to respond. Robert McCall, MD, and Janet Woodcock. People chuckled at Woodcock, that name, right? When I put up that video earlier last night. Who else? Robert McCall, a lot of them. Or if they did provide something, it was a defective affidavit. So basically what this means is that they all have to step down. Okay. This is why they had to be gotten rid of. Sally Ann says Trump will invoke the Constitution. It has been invoked since 1940. Shalom, my darling. Okay, let's see. So yes, he's cleaning it up, and the Earth Alliance behind him. So he's going to reduce government and end the IRS and all of those governmental agencies, because they're not government. They're not a part of our republic. They must go. What else is he going to do? Okay. I don't know if we covered all of them, but we've been up for almost 2 hours. So let me just go ahead on with the next thing. I will put all of these articles in the description section for you, family. Keep checking in. Happy Holy Day. It is Friday. Happy Friday. Yay. What else is on the agenda to discuss? Yes, Trump is cleaning things up, family. He said in a brief clip of this interview that I want to show you that he will make our country rich again. Hold on, let me get this out of the way. He's going to make our country rich again. And one of the ways, the best way to do that really is to put tariffs on those countries about which we spoke. China, all these countries, anything that we're going to import in from other countries, we're going to tax them, because again, that's what happened before they put taxes on we the people. You tax the countries with whom you're doing business. That's the way the government makes money. And then you don't have to tax the people. That's the way it was before. But when these bloodline families took authority, you guys want to look at my video that's called They Lied to Us. I did 2 parts to that video on my YouTube channel. They lied to us, and they lied to us part 2, talking about bloodline families, who they are, what they've done, how they took authority from America and from all other people in other countries and created their own governments, their own statutes, codes, policies, and policy enforcers or police officers to do their bidding. The police officers will have to stand down. Again, and motu proprio, that letter, and I showed you that on my video, motu proprio, that Pope sent to Obama, he said even policy enforcers or police officers have to step down, because only the sheriffs on the land could actually impose or enforce the laws. Policy enforcers or police officers enforce policies, statute, codes, and policies of the United States Incorporated. This is why all over America, you see police departments being dismantled and the duties of the police departments being transferred to the sheriff's departments, because the sheriffs will now enforce laws, not statutes, codes, and policies. Okay. So let's see how Trump is going to make America rich again. Which website are you asking for, my darling? Can you let me know what question you're asking? Bertha says, which website? If you're talking to me, can you let me know the website about which you're speaking? The one you need, I'll bring it for you. Let's see. So Trump says we're going straight into prosperity on day one. Monday is in 3 days. Let's see what he's saying he's going to do in terms of making America rich. Let us know you can hear us, baby. I'm always talking to the grandchildren. Put a 1 in the chat, please. I'll make the screen full for you. If you can hear it, put a 1 in the chat. And I'll see if I can put the closed caption on here. Oh, closed caption is closed on this one. Here you go.
Tariffs will make our country rich.
But won't they raise prices?
Properly used. I didn't have any inflation, and I had massive tariffs on a lot of things. Tariffs, properly used, which we will do, and being reciprocal with other nations, but it'll make our country rich.
I love that. Reciprocity, make our country rich, spot on. But we'll get to hear from Taylor Riggs, co-host of The Big Money Show. It's right here on Fabulous Fox Business, by the by. My great friend.
So he said tariffs will make our country rich. Anybody that want to do business with us will have to pay. Okay, and everybody desires to do business with America. This, according to them, out of their mouths, is the greatest country in the world. But take heart, all countries will do well with the global currency reset. Now that all of these countries have stopped trading with the United States dollar that was attached to the United States Incorporated and their central banking system and the Federal Reserve, all that is being dismantled. This is why the Supreme Court overturned so many rules last year. But while they were overturning things, they stated that state-sponsored banks in America could operate outside of the Federal Reserve central banking system. They can have their own charter, their own laws, and they can issue their own gold-backed currency. So America is going to do well. We already know that over 45 states here in America, according to the Sound Money Defense League, have already reclaimed silver and gold as money. That all they did was repealed or remove the state sales tax from the sales of precious metals. When you remove the state sales tax from the sales of precious metals, you are acknowledging silver and gold as what? A tier 1 asset, as money, instead of revering them as a commodity. A commodity is something that's like a trading card, a relic, or something that you can just collect, a collectible. Gold is no longer seen as a collectible or a commodity. Now it's known as a tier 1 asset. So that's why the Supreme Court of the United States said that state-sponsored banks can recognize gold, as money, issue out their own gold-backed currencies, and operate outside the Federal Reserve central banking system. This, all I'm saying, family, is that we're proving that the United States Incorporated is over, that it has been dismantled. And Trump, now stepping forward, will transition us to the republic. All of these things that have happened behind the scenes, the Supreme Court overturning Chevron doctrine, meaning that all the federal agencies have to end. Also, the Supreme Court allowing for state-sponsored banks to have their own charter and issue out their own gold-backed currencies. Also, you saw Basel III compliances being mandated for all of the banks. Basel III, Basel IV compliances, meaning all the banks now that remain will be wealth management centers. They have to recognize gold as a tier 1 asset, gold as money. They have to recognize tier 2 assets. And I showed you all that video that said all banks met globally to determine their preparedness to receive tier 2 assets. This is all part of Basel II compliances. These banks met globally this summer or last year. Or was it last year? Yeah, they met globally last year to determine that they were ready to receive tier 2 assets. And in that podcast, I showed you that tier 2 assets or foreign reserves are your foreign currencies. Banks met globally to make sure that they were ready to receive, family, your foreign assets, your foreign currencies. So much is happening to ensure that prosperity begins immediately. And if Trump said prosperity will start on day one, should we expect the Iraqi dinar to trade on the Forex by January 20th? I don't know, but I can tell you everything's in place. Okay, al-Sudani, the prime minister of Iraq, already met with the president or met with whomever is in Washington, D.C. He met with his people that were in Detroit. He did all this last year. He and the United States Treasury, he and his Treasury Department met with the United States Treasury Department here to ensure that the payment platform was in place. They made an announcement out of Iraq already that said their banks were international, that they were ready to conduct business and do business, okay, between the different countries with their payment platforms. Iraq is ready. If prosperity is going to start on day one, it is very possible that the Iraqi dinar will revalue, but that also means that the Vietnamese dong could revalue. It means that the Afghanistan currency, and I shouldn't say revalue, I should be saying be reinstated, because these countries' currencies being revalued means that you're actually assessing the value or reinstating the country's currencies back to the rate that it was before they had war in their countries or before sanctions were put on those countries. Because what made the United States dollar the world reserve currency and made us the financial economic hegemony or have the powerhouse that we were here in America was that we had an agreement with Saudi Arabia to protect their Saudi kingdom in exchange for their oil. And we would force all exporting nations to get oil from Saudi Arabia using the United States dollar. That's why they all pegged their country's currency to the United States dollar. That was an agreement. But when Saudi Arabia joined BRICS 2 years ago, that ended the agreement. I don't care that people are just now saying that Saudi Arabia's contract with the United States wasn't renewed this summer. I'm glad, but that's not what ended it. It ended 2 years ago when Saudi Arabia joined BRICS and it became known as SALBRICS. Well, whether it happened then or when the agreements were not renewed on last June, we can see with our eyes that those trade agreements are over. The OPEC agreements are over. And this is why Project Sandman is so important. When all those countries stop trading with the dollar, start using their own country's currencies backed by silver, gold, palladium, platinum, and the resources that they have, then all the countries' currencies became one-to-one with each other. So it is very, very possible that we're about to see countries' currencies be reinstated back to their pre-war rates and their pre-sanction rates. So again, we had an agreement with Saudi Arabia. We're going to protect your kingdom and force all nations to get oil from you. They have to trade using our United States dollar to get oil from you, but no more agreement. Those agreements don't happen anymore. But before those agreements ended, if countries didn't get oil from Saudi Arabia, or they tried to use gold or anything else or their own currency before, we would just send war to those countries, or we would put sanctions on those countries. We put sanctions on Kuwait. We put sanctions on Iraq. We had sanctions on Venezuela. We went to war in Afghanistan. You see where I'm going? What happened? We decimated their economies. We destroyed their GDP. We decimated their infrastructure. We, meaning the United States Incorporated military, and the currency's value decreased. Well, people in power, people in the know, connected to the bloodline family, celebrities, politicians, bank corporate leaders, then will go into those countries that were war torn or had sanctions put on them, buy up the country currencies while they were devalued through war or sanctions, and hold them. What? Because some of the, like Kuwait, the Kuwaiti dinar might have been like $3.47 before the war. After the war, it went down to like 50 cents. Well, then the people in the know bought up the currencies after the war, bought it for 50 cents, okay? Held on to it. waited till after the war. America would go back in those countries, went back into Kuwait, rebuild the infrastructure. Then the economy would go back and the currency would go right back up to its pre-war value. It went right back up to $3.50. Can you imagine your country being the strongest currency in the world at the time that the Kuwaiti dinar was thriving in the 1990s? And then you send the war over there, you decimate their economy, it come down. I mean, it was almost $3.47 above America's dollar. That's why they went over there and created war. Then can you imagine buying those currencies and then you hold on to them, wait till America go and rebuild the infrastructure? And the currency be reinstated back to its lawful value of $3.47, but you only bought it for 50 cents. Those people became millionaires and billionaires overnight. What do you think is going to happen with the Iraqi dinar? What do you think is going to happen with the Venezuelan bolivar? The Zimbabwean Zim, which is not their currency, is actually a Zim bond. That's why it says at the top left corner, I promise to pay the bearer upon demand. That is a governmental promise. What do you think is going to happen to Afghanistan's currency, the Afghani, Indonesian rupiah, Indian rupee? Those countries' currencies will be reinstated back to their pre-war and pre-sanctioned value. Now, we're not just talking about the rate that it was, but let's take into account of inflation. So I was following Proletario, also known as Proletario, also known as Ariel. Follow him on Twitter, Ariel. And he was saying, if you account for inflation in Iraq, you think about the pre-war value of like $3.50. Let's just give it a value. It's $3 and some change of the Iraqi dinar before it was decimated. Okay. And before that dinar devalued. Let's say they reinstated back to $3 or $3.50. If you have $1 million in dinar right now, multiply that by 3, that means that's $3 or 3 million or 3,500,000. But let's account for inflation. According to Ariel, he already did the math. When you account for inflation, you have to say that's 13. Put that rate to $13. So if you have $1 million Iraqi dinar and you look at the rate, accounting for inflation, reinstating it back to its pre-war value, $13, that means now you have 13 million. But what if we also account for gold, silver, palladium, platinum, oil, whatever resources Iraq has? Iraq having gold that they repatriated back from the Vatican. Because remember, when al-Sudani took power in Iraq in October 2022, he then did a press conference in November 2022, and he said there was endemic corruption in my country. Now, whether or not he's benevolent or not, I don't know, but I'm hearing rumors that he's about to be replaced too. He might have just been used as well. Al-Sudani said in November 2022, I am working with other countries to return my stolen money to end endemic corruption and to revalue. And I'm working with the Central Bank of Iraq to revalue the Iraqi dinar against the United States dollar. You hear that first part? I'm working with other countries to return my stolen money. He returned his stolen gold and his stolen money from the Vatican, other countries. So if we consider all that could back his country's currencies, who knows what the value on the new rate of the Iraqi dinar could be? Okay, it could be higher than $13. It could be $100. It could be $150. Who knows? But all I'm saying to you is now the Most High, the Creator source, is allowing you and me to know this information, and it's up to us to do what we can if we desire to get in on the greatest wealth transfer, to look into these countries' currencies. Put in the chat, family, currencies that families could look into. Say they can't afford, or it's not in their budget for $1 million Iraqi dinar. Get fewer, get $25,000 note. Get lower denominations. Get other currencies that are only a couple of dollars. So you want to make sure you look at my video that says, I have 2 videos that I want you to check. And we're going to keep going. I'm only going to go a few more minutes on this video. Here's 2 videos I want you to look at. So if you go to the Dr. Kia Pruitt channel on Rumble, this is what it looks like. This is me. This is my channel. There are many other accounts using my name. There's this one called Great News for Currency Holders. This one here talks about how banks are ready and prepared to receive foreign assets. They also call them tier 2 assets. They also call them revaluation assets. and those are your foreign currencies. The reason why the banks met to determine their preparedness is because, and I showed you the articles that state explicitly, banks need tier 2 assets as well as tier 1. First of all, they need tier 1, which is gold. Then they need tier 2 assets to bolster the health of the bank, to ensure that the banks don't go bankrupt, to ensure that the banks are protected against any type of financial crisis that could come. They need you. They need your currency. So they made sure that they were ready. They met globally to determine their preparedness. I don't know anybody else that's done a podcast on this. Okay, I did this podcast first last year when it first happened, and then I re-uploaded this video just 5 days ago. This video on this particular platform received 20,000 views, and it received around the same on my Rumble channel. Then it was also streamed on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and some of my other channels. But did very well last year too, because that's when the news broke. So you want to watch that video. Great news. Banks are ready for currency exchanges. And there's another one that says, get in on the greatest wealth transfer while you can. Where is that one? So this is in the video section. Make sure you go to the videos here. Get in. Where is that one? This one says Trump announced that the golden age of America has begun. And I don't see the one getting on the greatest. Here's the one I did with Princess Elizabeth, and I have videos with Chief Mack. The one about the greatest wealth transfer, I don't see that one. It is on here somewhere. Oh, that was a live. I didn't know that one was a live. Then you can go over to my live video section, and I brought it up for you here. I just want you to look at some key videos. This one, get in on the greatest wealth transfer in history while you can, because I talk about the way people during the Depression became wealthy was by buying depreciated assets. Some depreciated assets we have right now are foreign currencies, gold and silver, digital coins. As a matter of fact, XRP just went up and doing very well. So you might want to look at this particular video. You'll see me here, and it says the golden era welcomes you. So I just want to help you all, or help us as much as we can, family, so as we prepare for this new reality into which we're going. And then I want to show you this article where Trump, is this an article? Oh, no, this is a Truth Social post that Trump did where he said, they call it the Internal Revenue Services. I'm calling these new tariffs the External Revenue Service. I like to show you a lot of different sources to support my claims that we're about to enter into a new prosperous era. Trump said this January the 14th at 11:28 a.m. For far too long, we have relied on taxing our great people using the Internal Revenue Services called the IRS. Through soft and pathetically weak trade agreements, the American economy has delivered growth and prosperity to the world while taxing ourselves. It is time for that to change. I am today announcing that I will create the External Revenue Service to collect our tariffs, duties, and all revenue that come from foreign sources. We will begin charging those that make money out of us with trade, and they will start paying finally their fair share. January 20th, 2025, they will be the birth date of the External Revenue Service. Make America great again. Another time he uses all caps. I can imagine that's gematria for another coded message. So this here was on Trump's Truth Social again. So let me put that in the chat for you, and I'll put it in the description section for you to see as well. So I'm just right now providing my proof or sources that I've gotten from other platforms to support my claim that Trump has said that we're going to kick off, this new era with prosperity. Let's see. I don't know if you guys saw the new debt clock. but it's looking mighty fine. If you go to, you can go to usdebtclock.org, or you can just go to Twitter, because I follow the Debt Clock on Twitter and they always post up their new things. Look at this, and you will see the new Debt Clock, Debt to Wealth. Look at that. So, you know, we're going to have a Jubilee. I've done podcasts on Jubilees. And then there was an article that came out. Thank you for the Cash App blessing. I appreciate you. Who was that did this new article? Oh, that said, it's time for, we're about to experience a debt jubilee of biblical proportions. Are you ready? Jubilee. Oh, it was Zero Hedge. And anytime you see mainstream talking about something like this, you need to get excited. So look at this. First of all, let's look at this Debt Clock, Debt to Wealth Revolution. Beautiful. You can look at many people who broke it down, but we have been a nation that's ridden with debt. We've taxed our own people. We reached a debt crisis in terms of how the government is doing. We know Janet Yellen said that we need to take extreme or extraordinary measures. There have been rumors to shut down the government, all type of things, unless they come up with new budgeting, new spending habits. But at the end of every empire, what you see is governments printing out as much money as they can, buying up resources, excuse me, and then crashing the system. Okay, so they print as much money as they can, they use it, they buy resources for themselves, they crash the system, and then they return to the gold standard or a sound monetary system. That's called the crack up boom. Look that up, crack up boom. So this is probably why we see that on the debt clock. What is a crack up boom? Well, I said it in my words, but I'll show it to you, or you can just look it up. What is a crack up boom? And here's the definition. A crack up boom is an economic crisis that involves a recession in the real economy and a collapse of the monetary system due to continual credit expansion and resulting in unsustainability, rapid price increase as well. This concept of a crack up boom was developed by Austrian economist Ludwig von Mises as a part of the Austrian business cycle theory. I actually follow all of his work in the Mises Institute. So the Austrian economists understand and understand that this happens at the end of every empire. What happens after they crash the system is that they go to a sound monetary system called the gold-backed system. The Austrian economists support gold. They understand and understand that gold is not a relic, it's not a commodity, it's not just a collector. This is why you see people that were lawmakers that understand and understand Austrian economists to actually put forth bills to eliminate taxes on precious metals and to get rid of capital gains tax, because they said you can't put a tax on precious metals, not on the sale of precious metals, not on getting or acquiring precious metals, because precious metals are not commodities. They're not collectors. They're not a trading card. They are money. That's why the banks had to become Basel III compliant and recognize gold as a tier 1 asset, because we're moving back to the era in which we recognize gold and consider gold, silver, palladium, platinum to be money. So how do you get rid of all the debt? The United States Incorporated is full of debt. The people are full of debt. I mean, you can put forth gold to pay off the debt. And I have done a video where I showed how Anna von Reitz and one of her cohorts came actually online and said that gold had been put forward behind the scenes to pay off the debt in America. I'll see if I can find that for you. And it's funny because, a lot of people say, well, she's not a real judge. Well, judged by according to whom? According to the Constitution or according to the Republic? The Constitution for our Republic, or according to, the Constitution of the United States Incorporated, or according to the Constitution for the Republic? Let's see. I'm just going to show you this. I might re-download this video for you. on my YouTube channel. If I do, then I'll put in the heading, this is a re-upload from 2022, so you guys won't think it's new and get upset with me for posting an old video. But in this video on my Rumble channel, and I might put it on my YouTube channel, I actually talked about this, how gold had been put forward to pay off the debt in America and in Australia. And so let me tell you, though, this is important because they say in order to pay off the debt, Austrian economists say in order to pay off the debt here in America alone, you would have to revalue gold. Let me see if I can put that in the chat for you. You would have to revalue gold between $10,000 an ounce and $100,000 per ounce. Gold is right now, what, $2,600 an ounce? So gold will be revalued. It will go up in value, but then at some point, according to what I understand and understand, it will correct itself. Okay. So you can put forward the gold to pay off the debt, but there's still some outstanding debt. What about people's debt? What do? You have a jubilee. You have a debt jubilee. You completely wipe out that debt. That's based on biblical principles. When the children of Israel came out of Egypt, the God of the biblical God, or Yahweh, told Moses and the people to count 7 years, and after the end of every 7 years to forgive debts and to have a jubilee. They call that in the Hebraic faith or Judaism, they call it the Shemitah. I grew up in the Hebrew woman. People say Hebrew is not a religion, it's not a way of being, it's a language. Look, I'm Hebrew. You can call me Hebrew, Jewish, whatever. Okay. That was the tradition into which I was raised. So you know about the Shemitah or Shemitah, which occurs at the end of every 7 years. You're supposed to set free your slaves or indentured servants, because all those indentured servants were workers that were paying off their debt. And you were supposed to give them land arrest. You were also supposed to do a cycle of 7 years. So 7 times 7 on every, like the 49th year, you were supposed to go have a big celebration actually on that 50th year. So you do it every 7 years, then you count 7 times 7, acknowledge it on the 49th year, and have a big debt jubilee celebration on the 50th year, and that's called the Platinum Jubilee. So that's something that you did historically, the Jews did, or the Hebrews did historically throughout time since the biblical time when the children of Israel, I don't want to use that quotation, came out of slavery from Egypt. This is according to the biblical story, but it is also a part of tradition, our tradition. So this is why I'm bringing this up, is because we've been talking about NESARA and JASARA, the National Economic Security and Reformation Act, and the global version of that being the Global Economic Security and Reformation Act, actually eliminating debt. And we've been talking about it, but now you saw it on a news article by Zero Hedge. Zero Hedge said in their article, a debt jubilee of biblical proportions is coming. Are you ready? So we know Trump said prosperity begins on day one. This article came out December 24th, the day before Christmas, which, by the way, was the first day that the Pope unlocked or opened up the prosperity doors, or what did he call those doors? The portals. Jubilee portals, right? The first day was the 24th. He opened the portal. The 26th, the 30th, I want to say, New Year's Day, and then a couple days later in January. So here we go. The Pope opened up Jubilee portals, and then you had this article by Zero Hedge that says in biblical or ancient times, people became hopelessly indebted to their creditors. As debts mounted, social unrest would boil over, threatening the stability of the entire ruling system. The rulers of the ancient world understood this dangerous dynamic. Their solution was radical yet effective: to enact widespread debt cancellation, which is a debt jubilee. Debt jubilees acted as societal pressures released valves when no other option remained. When you don't know what to do, just go ahead and wipe out the debt. This practice spread throughout the ancient world and became codified in various civilizations. For instance, the book of Leviticus formalized debt jubilees as the conclusion of a 49-year biblical cycle, 7 cycles of 7. And I will add, you're supposed to celebrate it on the 50th year. I believe that the ancient practice is poised for a major comeback, the article suggests, as government, corporate, and personal debt levels today have reached unsustainable heights. Family, we're here. This is a new season. This is a new time that you and I have agreed to come and experience. This is wonderful. Great news. While all this is going on, we also know to expect 6 planets that will be visibly aligned together on January the 21st. So much good news is happening. And I'm wrapping it up, family. Let me see if I can show this to you. Try not to be on too much longer. Planets Parade. They're calling it a Planet Parade of 2025. January's rare planet alignment will occur during a planet parade. Sky gazers and astronomy enthusiasts can look forward to catching a rare planet parade in the night sky through January. So NASA scientists and others are saying that planets will appear more or less along a line across during a planetary alignment. That's going to occur between January 21st and February 21st. So let's see what happens, family. Usually when planets align, a portal is opening or closing. So we'll see what this is all about. For all of you that are in this line of work and you understand planetary alignments, chime in and let us know what you think. And so it says you can read on more to learn about this planetary alignment, what it means, how it would feel for Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus to be visibly in the sky. The best time to catch it will be on January 29th, but it will occur on the 21st. So chime in the chat, let us know why you think that's happening and what that means. In the meantime, while all this new stuff is happening, the president of Mexico just did some type of constitutional reform to state that the indigenous people in Mexico actually started off as a race of copper-colored people. She's bringing out the truth that there are Afro-Indigenous or Black people, and that these Black Mexicans now will be declared as sovereign. Oh my God, this is great. So I did put up a video stating that and what that means, what that is. I'll have an article in the description section to go along with that. Yes, the same thing like that will happen in America, where the indigenous people will be proclaimed as indigenous, and the truth will come out that we didn't come from African slave ships, just like this is occurring in Mexico. So, you know, a lot of us have been lied to. It's time for us to be told the truth, family. Some people. So this is the brief video here. Let me know if you can hear it.
Recently, la presidenta de Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum Pardo, signed 2 edicts into law, which are breathtaking to say the least. What she did and what she signed into the Mexican Constitution are 2 parts. The first part was that the indigenous people within Mexico of many different tribes will now have the ability to have their own sovereign nations. Now, bear with me here. So basically, a commission is set up to recognize those indigenous nations within Mexico and teach them and show them how they can rule autonomously and set up their own rulership over their own people, because there's a lot of indigenous different tribes within Mexico. The second part of that edict that was signed into the Mexican Constitution recognizes, and hear me out here, Afro-Indigenous. So, and that basically states that written into the Mexican Constitution, it is now law that the Afro-Indigenous are recognized as full citizens of Mexico and are afforded their indigenous status. And then she went on to state that Mexico recognizes that Afro-Indigenous people were on this continent hundreds of years before the Spaniards stepped 1 foot on the soil. it completely changes the narrative of what we've been taught. It completely changes the idea that Columbus was here and there's just Mexicans. It flips it right on its head. Everything is out the door. This is a very intelligent woman. And what she has stated are what people on different social media platforms have been saying for years. Black man was already here. The black man was already here. We didn't come in slave ships. That's not feasible. It would have taken too many ships. They would lose too many people. But if you're taken from Mexico and South America and taken off the coast and sat off the coast for a couple months and then brought up and dropped off in Boston, that makes it a hell of a lot more feasible, doesn't it? Afro-Indigenous were here hundreds of years before the Spaniards showed up. I'll put this into perspective. The English Bible, the most widely sold book in history, the Bible, New Testament, Old Testament, you can go back in that Bible to the beginning of time of man. Adam, Eve, his wife, conceived from the rib of Adam, and the Creator took that rib. Their children, Cain and Abel, and how that conflict and one brother slew the other. The creation of the earth, the waters, the fish in the deep, the firmament. Okay, enough Bible lesson for today. But yet we can't go back before Columbus. What was the black man's history? How did he get here? The Phoenician? The Israelite?
So some of the disclosures that is going to come out is about what happened during colonization of many countries as it relates to autogenous people, or people that sprung from the soil. Autogenous means that the same dirt or the same dirt that's in the ground is the same dirt that's in your colon because you sprung from that place. So autogenous peoples have been usurped and enslaved. And when you usurp the autogenous or original peoples of different nations, then you take over their government, you take over their monetary systems, you take over their culture and everything. You know, that's what these bloodline families did. And then you can spin a narrative and you can create, your own laws. You can even create people from those autogenous people by doing gene splicing and mixing them with different variation of different humanoids or different species, humanoid species, animal species, whatever. You can do whatever you want. Then you can also manipulate their ability to grow, their ability to live forever. You could take what they call reduce is it telomeres or something to make them live fewer years. You could do anything you desire if you are a group of other intelligence. So we have other intelligence that's here on this planet, some that we would consider benevolent or malevolent or bad because they didn't have our best interest at heart, and some malevolent. The ones that desire to see us thrive, they are here overseeing this transition. They're overseeing this process. Again, that's what some of these drones allegedly are. These drones that they're saying are just, some type of made up entity of things that's in the sky. Some of them may be, but why are they the size of ships and boats? Possibly because they are ships from other dimensions, other realms, other galaxies that are overseeing this process. So my encouragement, family, is to stay encouraged, keep your vibrations lifted, keep them raised, because so much information is going to come out about these beings, these entities, or so-called deities. I just call them interdimensional beings. Information about the autogenous people, just like they talked about Mexico, it's going to be the same here. I do have information from the Ouachita people the Washita Empress Vertice or Vertice Gaston L. Turner Bay. I have her websites. I can do a whole podcast on who she is, who she was, how she was the empress of the Ashita or autogenous peoples here in America, how she took the United States Incorporated to court. So her work is very significant in this transition back to the Republic, because the farmers' claims is important with NESARA and BESARA. They took the banks, the central banks, the central banks of the United States, the Federal Reserve, to court and proved that the Federal Reserve had taken their land, made them take out loans with usury or interest rates, which is against the Constitution, thereby enslaved the farmers and forced them to do nefarious things. And if they didn't, they will confiscate their land and unalive them. But those court cases also proved that it wasn't only done to the farmers, it was done to we the people in America and all over the continent. Well, that was one or a series of their claims. What about Empress Vertice or Vertice Gaston L. Turner Bay? Her claim was that these bloodline families came, usurped authority from the so-called Black people, stole their land, they called it the Louisiana theft. I mean, they called it the Louisiana Purchase, but it was also the Louisiana theft. That territory that they stole stemmed from Canada, the Louisiana Purchase, all the way down through Mexico and some of the Caribbean islands. She talks about in her lawsuit how this was the land of the autogenous copper-colored races, now called Black people, and how the United States Incorporated has to pay that money back because they stole the identity of the people. They allowed people to come here and steal the resources. They allowed $5 Indians to sign up their names on the Dawes Rolls to claim our name, our land, our identity, our resources. And she said, you gotta pay us back. She won her claim in the amount of $85 quadrillion. When she went to the courts to bring this to the courts, the United Nations was either forced to, or they did it on their own, to call the Black people here in America the oldest indigenous people on the planet. I'm getting chills talking about it. The oldest, and I do, yes, I have the proof, the oldest indigenous peoples on the planet. We've always been here. We are the autogenous people here. We are the original people. Other people came from us, came from the womb and the loins of the autogenous people. That's why these bloodline families who are not human, interdimensional beings, started here first, enslaving the people. And even when other people came here and we had treaties with them, they interfered and interjected because they felt if they can enslave the autogenous people first and suppress them as far down as they could, then they could go after everybody else. And that's what we see happening. You don't believe me? Where did the drugs start? In the Black community. Where did all the violence start? In the Black community. Where did the programs to remove the fathers out of the home start? In the so-called Black community. Where did the prison to school to prison pipeline start? In the Black community. Who did the FBI start accumulating information on and learning about how we vibe, how we move, about our culture, so that they could use certain foods and programs to enslave us through music, through culture, through violence, through the media, through drugs, through guns? Who did they use first and collect all the evidence information on first? The people classified as Black, the autogenous, original copper-colored races found here by Christopher Columbus. Again, 1828 Webster's definition of American copper-colored people or races found here by Christopher Columbus. Read the accounts of the colonists that were here. Read Columbus's account. They all talk about the high cheekbones, dark skin, tawny complected, some people said red complected, nappy, kinky, coily-haired people that were already here. Then look up Walter Plecker. Walter Plecker and the Census Bureau changed the classification and categorization of us from autogenous indigenous people to colored, then Black, then Negroid, then Black again, and then African American. Why? To confuse the children. Then they put in these programs that you came from Africa, that your family in Africa sold you to America, and you're going to be a perpetual slave. Then they commissioned Hollywood to put into our psyche these movies that we came from African slave ships, because they don't want you to know that you were here already, and they stole the land and the resources from you, and they gave you this programming that is against you. Well, when I was living in Africa and when my son was over, I had started and the founder of an African church, well, not an African, a church, an international church where we had people from all over the world join our church, as well as people from the Caribbean island and many African nations. And when I lived in Africa, they said, if we had sold our own family members into slavery, don't you think at some point we would have come back for our own family? It never happened. And we never heard that story until we went to Rothschild funded schools. This is why Alex Haley, who came up with that movie Roots, talking about Kitsy and Chicken George and all of his relatives that allegedly came from Africa and they were now enslaved, and, Jessa Massac bootlicking and bucking and stuff. Alex Haley, who came up with that movie, published it and talked about it being his history, was sued by a Caucasian brother by the name of Harold Corlander for plagiarizing Harold Corlander's work. Harold Corlander wrote a book called The African. According to the documents, the court documents, Alex Haley stole or plagiarized his characters and created this whole story that African Americans were from Africa. So what I would advise you to do is to look up your own bloodline, your own history, and you come up with your own truth. We are tired of the lies, okay? We are the copper-colored, autogenous, aboriginal people that Christopher Columbus saw when he came here. He himself was melanated, and many of our presidents were too. So that's the truth. And I'm sticking to it. I've already done my work to look at my bloodline, my family. We've never been slaves, not on one, not on my daddy's side, on my mama's side. We were property owners and business owners. They lied to us all, family, but the truth will be uncovered. The truth is coming out, family. This is good for everybody. I don't care what nation you come from, what ethnicity, what so-called race, what skin complexion, what religion, what political affiliation. This is good news for us all, that the truth is coming out, and we all, family, we all will be liberated. But we can't wait for somebody else to do it. We have to know the truth for ourselves, and we have to liberate humanity for ourselves and work together to do this, family. So having said that, I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. This is Friday. I'm excited because I get to go see my grandbabies and spend an amazing time with them for the weekend and spend money on them and just love on them, family. I love you all so much. Thank you all so much for being here. Taj, my great friend, says, no slaves in my family either. My family owned 300 acres of land in South Carolina and owned a paper mill. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us. Wow. So many of you will find out that your family actually owns and still own property here. So the land is being returned back to the chiefs. I keep telling you, the land is being turned back to the chiefs, the indigenous, autogenous people that have been on the planet forever. They've been suppressed. They've been lied to. They've been put on reservations. They had their land stolen, their wealth stolen. Other people were allowed to come and take the wealth. Treaties that we had with European people, European nations, treaties we had with Vladimir Putin. Why do you think Vladimir Putin uncovered that Jesus was black and opened up the vaults and said, there's gold here, all the biblical characters are black? He's saying, and he never wanted to do business with not the America. He didn't want to do business with the United States Incorporated. Most nations didn't. They know who the original people here are. They know who the government is. They know who wrote the Republic. Hello, it was the original. What do you think the original presidents look like? Some people say it doesn't matter. Yes, it does. All truth matters. Okay. And especially to the people we've all been lied to, especially to the people to whom have been lied. So, family, I'm telling you, the truth is coming out. I've exhausted myself telling you all this, but this is why the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, okay? Years ago, the Chiefs won against the 49ers and the Chiefs won against the Eagles, because the eagle is the symbol of the Roman Empire, of the United States Incorporated. The Eagles, anything with eagles, indigenous, Indians, any of those names of characters, anytime they play games in the last couple of years, they have won those games, because games are rigged. They're codified messages letting you know that everything is being returned back to the autogenous Aboriginal people. And that's good news for everybody because we have treaties with all nations. And you'll be able to operate, even if you're not a part of the Aboriginal tribes, you'll be able to operate in your sovereignty as well. Everybody will operate in their sovereignty. Every country's currencies will be 1-to-1. All treaties now must be honored, and this is being monitored by galactic or interdimensional beings and monitored by source, because it's our time to be free and it's our time to experience planetary peace and planetary prosperity. My name is Dr. Kia Pruitt. I thank you all for your time, your energy, your chats, your super chat, your Cash App, and your Cash App blessings. Thank you for continually to bless me and support me. Even when I'm not online, my Cash App is $Mama Kia 13. If you desire to contribute to my work, then you can send a Cash App blessing to $MAMAKIA 13. And I would greatly appreciate it. So family, my name is Dr. Kia Pruitt. I trust that I've said something to raise your vibrations and inspire you to create the most amazing, magnificent life that you desire and deserve. Peace, family. Make this a great day, and I'll see you soon. Monday's going to be phenomenal.